Hey guys, tonight we're going to take a deep dive. No, I mean a really, really deep dive into one of the most disgusting, dangerous, yet surprisingly well-paid jobs in history. We're heading back to 16th century to England, where you'll be taking on a profession so foul, it was literally illegal to perform it in daylight. Honestly, if this were real, your chances of making it through the first week would be, let's just say, questionable. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support truly means the world, and while you're at it, I'd love to see where you're listening from. Drop your city and the current time in the comments below. It's always a quiet thrill to see how far these stories travel. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The world around you is dark, and not just because it's night. It's a damp, bone-chilling darkness that seems to cling to the very air in this cramped London lodging house. You can smell the wet wool of your thin blanket, the faint, sour ghost of stale ale on your breath, and the ever-present aroma of the city itself, a muddle of wood smoke, mud, and something vaguely unpleasant you can't quite name. Rain streaks down the single, grimy pane of glass, blurring the already murky view of the alley below. You came to this sprawling, chaotic city weeks ago, a hopeful migrant from a village where the harvest failed one too many times. You'd heard tales of gold paving the streets. So far, you've only found cobblestones slick with filth. Your stomach is a hollow, aching cavern. The last of your coins, spent on a heel of bread 2 days ago, feels like a distant memory. Every door has been closed to you. You're not a skilled craftsman. You have no guild affiliation, and the sheer number of desperate people just like you means that even a job hauling crates at the docks is a sought-after prize. The golden opportunity of London has turned into a slow, grinding starvation. It's in a smoky, low-rafter-ed tavern near the river, a place where you've been nursing a cup of water for hours just to stay in the warmth, that the offer comes. H.E.S., an older man, his face a roadmap of wrinkles and his hands thick and calloused. He sits down opposite you without an invitation, his presence preceded by a peculiar, earthy scent that cuts through the tavern's FUG. He doesn't offer pleasantries. He just studies you with weary, assessing eyes. You look hungry, he says, his voice a low rumble. You just nod to weak and proud to speak. He pushes a half-eaten meat pie across the sticky table. Finish it. You don't need a second invitation. As you devour the flaky crust and savory filling, a warmth spreads through your chest that has nothing to do with the food. It's the first act of kindness you've received in weeks. When you finally look up, wiping grease from your chin, H.E.S. still watching you. I have work, he says plainly. Hard work, dirty work. But the pay is good. More than a farmer earns in a year, you can make in a few months. The words hang in the air. A year's wages. It sounds like a fantasy. You could buy property, start a trade, maybe even go home a success. What kind of work, you ask? Your voice hoarse. He leans in and the peculiar smell intensifies. It's not just sweat or grime. It's something far more primal. We work at night, he says, his voice dropping lower, when all the decent folk are in their beds. We work from 9 at night till 5 in the morning. It's the law. Can't be seen doing our business in the light of day. This is your first lesson. The job is so reviled, it's a nocturnal, legally enforced secret. He tells you they call themselves gong farmers or nightmen. You've never heard the term. He explains that gong is an old word for a privy, a cesspit. And farmer because we harvest it, he says with a grim twitch of his lips. We empty the city's privies. All of it, by hand. The half-eaten pie churns in your stomach. That's the smell. The unnamed, unpleasant scent of London you could never place. It's human waste. H.E.S. a toilet cleaner. A cesspit. The realization dawning on you with a cold horror. He sees the look on your face and nods slowly. Aye, that's the work. It's why the pay is good. No one else wants it. He tells you people will avoid you, that the smell will become a part of you. You nod, thinking it's just the stench, a practical problem. You don't yet understand the deeper social stain that comes with the job. Historians still debate whether this shunning was purely practical due to the overwhelming odor, or if it was tied to older, deeper beliefs about human waste being spiritually unclean and unlucky. For the people of your time, you are literally handling filth, and that filth clings to your soul as much as to your clothes. He lets use it with the fault, the noise of the tavern fading into a dull roar in your ears. On one hand, there is starvation, anonymity, and a cold, forgotten death in a London alley. On the other, a full belly, a heavy coin purse, and a life spent wading through the very things society wants to forget. He stands up, his shadow looming over you. It's a choice. Your pride or your life. You look at your empty hands, then at the remnants of the pie, the memory of its taste, of that brief, beautiful warmth, makes the decision for you. You look up at the old night man. Don't do it, you whisper. A flicker of something pity, perhaps, or respect crosses his face. Good lad. Meet me by the Southwark Gate at sundown tomorrow. And try to eat something before then. You'll need the strength. The next day crawls by in a haze of hunger and dread. The promise of food and coin fights a losing battle against the gnawing reality of the job you've accepted. As twilight bleeds across the sky, painting the grimy rooftops in shades of bruised purple and orange, you make your way to the Southwark Gate. The city is in transition. The clamour of the day is quieting. Merchants are shuttering their stalls. Apprentices are sweeping stoops, and the scent of 1,000 cooking fires begins to fill the air. You find him exactly would be, standing beside a large, sturdy-looking cart. The old man, who you learn is named Thomas, gives you a curt nod. With him is a younger, weary man with a perpetually sour expression, who barely glances at you. This is your new crew. Your new life. No welcoming banquet, no cheerful introductions. Thomas just hands you a thick, dark crust of bread and a hunk of hard cheese. Eat, he commands. You'll need it. The food is coarse, but it fills the desperate emptiness in your belly. As you eat, you watch the last vestiges of daylight disappear. The city gates creak shut, the sound echoing through the now darkened streets. The law-abiding world is tucking itself in for the night. Your world is just waking up. Thomas hitches himself onto the driver's seat of the cart, and you and the sour-faced man whose name you still don't know clamber onto the back. The cart is empty now, but you notice the dark stains on the floorboards and the overpowering, lingering scent that clung to Thomas in the tavern. It's 100 times stronger here. You trundle through the labyrinthine streets of London. It's a different city at night. The familiar landmarks are swallowed by shadow, the alleys become gaping mouths of blackness, and the sounds are muted and strange. The clatter of merchants' carts is replaced by the lone bark of a dog, the distant cry of the city watch, and the scuttling of unseen things in the darkness. You pass darkened houses, their windows like vacant eyes behind those walls. People are sleeping, dreaming, living lives utterly separate from the one you are about to lead. Finally, the cart creaks to a halt in a narrow yard behind a baker's shop. The air here is a confusing mix of stale bread and the sharp, acidic tang of your new profession. Thomas gestures towards the back of the yard with a lantern. This is it, a small one to start you on. In the center of the yard is a small, shed-like structure, the privy. Beside it, a large flat stone is set into the ground. This, you realize with a lurch in your gut, is the lid. The sour-faced man, who you now hear Thomas call Jack, wordlessly grabs a crowbar from the cart. Together, he and Thomas wedge it under the stone slab. With a grate open, the smell hits you like a physical blow. It's not just a smell, it's a presence. A thick, suffocating wave of ammonia and methane that makes your eyes water and your stomach clench violently. You gag, stumbling back, but Thomas' hand shoots out and grabs your arm with surprising strength. Breathe through your mouth, he grunts. You'll get used to it. Or you won't. He lowers a ladder into the square of blackness. The pit. The gong. He hands you a bucket tied to a long rope. Jack and I will stay up here. You go down. Fill the bucket. We'll haul it up and dump it in the cart. Simple as that. Your heart hammers against your ribs. This is the moment. Your whole body screams in protest. But the memory of that gnawing hunger, of the cold, dismissive faces, pushes you forward. You take a shaky breath through your mouth, tasting the foulness on your tongue. You swing your leg over the edge. Your foot finds the top rung of the ladder. It's slick with something you don't want to identify. You descend rung by painful rung, the lantern light from above shrinking as you go deeper. The darkness envelops you cool and thick. Then your boot touches the bottom. Except it's not a bottom, it sinks. You sink into something thick, wet, unyielding. The sensation is so alien, so utterly revolting, that you freeze. It's up to your ankles, then your shins. You take another step and it's luscious up to your knees. This is the city's refuse, the collected waste of the baker's family for months, maybe years. You can feel the texture of it through your thin woolen trousers. And in the dim, reflected glow of the lantern, you can see it. A semi-liquid mass of indescribable filth. Historians examining the contents of pits like this are still piecing together the minutiae of the Tudor diet. They debate just how much meat a commoner ate versus grains and vegetables, and the undigested seeds, husks, and fibers in this slurry hold the clues. To you, it's just a nightmare made real. Don't just stand there gawking. Jack's voice echoes from above. Fill the bucket. You force your numb hands to work. You bend, plunging the bucket into the mire. The filth slushes over your hands, cold and thick. It's heavier than you expected. You straighten up, your back already aching, and give the rope a tug. A moment later, the bucket is hauled up into the darkness, and you hear the wet slap of its contents being emptied into the cart. Then the bucket is swinging back down towards you, and you do it again, and again, and again. A slow, nauseating rhythm of scoop, lift and wait. The work is physically punishing, the smell is an unrelenting assault, but you fall into the motion. This is it, your first night. You are a gong farmer. The work is brutal, mindless, and repetitive. Your world shrinks to the square of faint, flickering light above you, the rope, the bucket, and the disgusting mire that surrounds you. Time seems to stretch and warp in the darkness. Every muscle in your back and arms screams in protest. The cold of the sludge seeps into your bones, a damp chill that you feel will never leave. This is a far cry from the honest, sun-drenched sweat of farm work. This is a different kind of exhaustion, one that feels like it's tainting you from the inside out. After what feels like an eternity, but is probably only an hour or two, the scrape of your bucket begins to hit solid stone. You're nearing the bottom. It's here, in the semi-sod depths, that the real work begins. Thomas lowers a wide-headed, long-handled shovel down to you. Scrape the bottom clean, he calls down. Every bit of it. This is your first proper introduction to the tools of the trade. They are simple, crude, and brutally effective. The shovel is heavy, made of thick, dark wood with an iron edge. The buckets, reinforced with iron bands, are built to withstand incredible weight and constant, punishing use. The ropes are thick, coarse hemp, strong enough to haul a man out if he gets into trouble. And then, there is the lantern. It's not just for light, it's a canary in a coal mine. Thomas had explained it briefly. If the flame starts to flicker and die, it means the air is bad. Poisonous fumes, what he called the damp, are building up. At that point, you get out. Fast. Some historians believe these damps were a mix of methane and hydrogen sulfide, a toxic cocktail, the toxic cocktail that could suffocate a man in minutes. For you, it's just an unspoken terror, another layer of danger in a job already fought with it. You start to work the shovel, scraping the thick, almost solid residue from the stone floor. It's heavy, back-breaking labor. The shovel feels like an extension of your own aching arms. Every scoop is a struggle. You fill the bucket, tug the rope, and wait for its return. This final layer of waste is the oldest, the most compressed. It is, you realize, the very foundation of the filth. As you work, you become intimately familiar with these few objects. You learn the particular heft and balance of the shovel. You learn how to wrap the rope around your wrist to get a better grip, even when your hands are slick with grime. You learn to gauge how full the bucket is by the strain on the rope, a subtle language spoken between you in the pit and the men above. These aren't just tools, they're your lifeline. You also discover a less obvious but equally crucial part of your equipment, your clothes. You're wearing your only set of clothes, The same ones you arrived in London with. But Thomas and Jack are dressed differently. Their trousers are made of thick, treated leather, tied tightly at the ankle. Their boots are high and waterproof for tallow. Their tunics are old, patched, and clearly designated for this work and this work and this work and this work alone. They are a uniform of filth, a second kind to be impenetrable. You make a mental note, your first decent pay will go towards a set of proper work leathers. It's not about comfort, it's about survival. As you scrape the last of the gunk from the floor, you notice something else. The walls of the pit aren't just earth. They're lined with brick, expertly laid. It's a well-built structure, designed to contain its foul contents and prevent them from seeping into the surrounding ground and, more importantly, into the baker's well. The construction of these pits was a serious business. A poorly built one could contaminate a neighborhood's water supply, leading to sickness and death. So while your job is considered the lowest of the low, it's a service performed on a piece of minor, but vital, civic engineering. Finally, the job is done. The stone floor of the pit is as clean as you can make it. All right, that's it. Come on up. Thomas' voice is a welcome reprieve. You climb the ladder, your body trembling with exhaustion. When you emerge from the hole, the night air, which had seemed so foul just hours ago, now feels impossibly fresh and clean. Jack and Thomas are already heaving the heavy stone slab back into place. They work with unpracticed efficiency, their movements economical and sure. There's no wasted effort. The cart, which was empty when you arrived, is now laden with barrels, all filled with the night's harvest. It sits low on its axles, the weight of it palpable. Thomas gestures to a pump in the corner of the yard. Clean yourself up as best you can, he says. The water is shockingly cold, but you scrub at your hands and arms, trying to remove the grime. It's a futile effort. The filth is embedded under your nails, in the very grain of your skin. And the smell is on you, your clothes, your nostrils. Thomas hands you another piece of bread. As you lean against the cart devouring it, he claps a heavy hand on your shoulder. You did good, lad. You didn't quit. You didn't quit. You didn't quit. You did to your shovel, leaning against the cart. You trust them, you take care of them. They'll take care of them. They'll take care of you. That shovel, that bucket, they're more reliable than any lord or merchant in this city. He then points to your flimsy boots, now utterly ruined. That's the most important tool of all. You nod understanding. This isn't just a job. It's a craft with its own rules, its own gear, and its own grim wisdom. As the cart rumbles away from the baker's yard, its weight now a tangible presence. You feel a subtle shift in the air between the three of you. The silence is no longer one of suspicion, but of shared, weary labor. Jack, the sour-faced man, even gives you a sideways glance that's more appraisal than dismissal. You survived your first pit. You didn't run screaming. You're still here. It's a low bar, but you cleared it. Thomas, sensing the moment, decides it's time for another lesson. You need to learn the words, he says, his voice a low grumble over the creak of the wheels. You don't go around shouting about what we do. Not if you want to keep your teeth. This is your initiation into the secret vocabulary of your trade, the jargon, the slang, the words that separate the insiders from the rest of the world. It's a language born of necessity and a desire to create a veil of professionalism, or at least euphemism, around a job that society finds revolting. First, Thomas says, we don't call it a privy or a cesspit when we're on the job. It's a gong, an old word, respectable. You nod, repeating the word in your head. Gong. It sounds solid, ancient, almost dignified. I whirled away from the foul reality it represents. And what we take out, it's not muck. It's not filth. He pauses for effect. It's night soil. Night soil. The term is almost poetic. It suggests something agricultural, cyclical, almost natural. It frames your work not as waste removal, but as a kind of harvest. A harvest conducted under the moon instead of the sun. The term itself was cleverly constructed. Night refers to the legally mandated time of your labor, and soil hints at its eventual and most common use. Much of what you collect, especially from pits containing animal waste from stables, will be sold to farmers and market gardeners outside the city walls as fertilizer. You're not just removing a problem, you're relocating a resource. Jack chimes in for the first time, his voice surprisingly sharp. And we're not muck men, we're gong farmers, or night men. Say it with a straight face. People pay for a gong farmer, they throw rocks at a muck man. There's a world of difference in that distinction. It's about creating a professional identity, a guild of 2 or 3 or however many of you there are, operating in the shadows. It's a psychological shield. If you call yourself a gong farmer, you can hold your head a little higher. It's a performance, a carefully constructed fiction you tell yourselves and the world to make the job bearable. Thomas then moves on to the unwritten rules, the survival guide that isn't codified in any law but is far more important. Rule 1, he says, holding up a thick finger. You don't talk to the client. Not unless you have to. We deal with the master of the house or his steward. We agree on the price beforehand. A shilling per ton. That's the going rate. We do the work, we take the coin, we leave. No pleasantries. They don't want to know you. And trust me, you don't want to know you. And trust me, you don't want to know them. This rule is about maintaining distance. Your presence is a necessary embarrassment for the homeowner, the better for everyone. Rule 2, he continues, never, ever, work past 5 in the morning. The watchman will fine you. Or worse, they see our cart on the street when the sun is up. It's a heavy fine and a day in the stocks for the master farmer. It's not worth the risk. If the job's not done, we pack up and come back the next night. The strict 9 to 5 schedule wasn't just about hiding the unsightliness of the work. Historians argue it was also a form of social control, literally making your profession invisible to the decent daylight world, reinforcing your status as a creature of the night. Rule 3, Jack adds, his sour face grim in the moonlight. Trust your nose in the flame. If the air feels wrong, if you feel dizzy, or if that flame on the lamp starts to dance and die, you get out. No questions. No being brave. A lung fuel of the bad air can kill you before you can even shout for help. He tells a short, grim story of a man he knew years ago, a farmer named Will, who got dizzy in a deep pit, slipped from the ladder, and was gone. They couldn't even retrieve the body for a day, until the pit had aired out. This is the grim reality behind the slang and the rules. This isn't just about social awkwardness, it's about life and death. The terminology, the strict schedule, the safety protocols, they are all part of a fragile system designed to keep you alive and employed in a world that needs you but despises you. As the cart finally reaches its destination, a designated dump site on the marshy ground near the river, where the night's soil will be loaded onto barges, you realize you've learned more in one night than you have in weeks of desperate searching. You've learned the tools, the dangers, and now the language. You're no longer just a hungry villager in the big city. You're a novice, an apprentice in a secret, foul-smelling but vital trade. You are, for better or worse, on your way to becoming a gong farmer. The first few weeks settle into a grueling, nocturnal rhythm. You work, you haul, you dump. You fall into your cot in the small room Thomas arranged for you just as the sun is rising, your body a symphony of aches. You sleep a dead, heavy sleep through the morning, the phantom smell of the pits still clinging to your senses. It's when you wake, in the full light of the afternoon, that you begin to learn the most painful lesson of your new trade. It's a lesson that isn't taught with words, but with averted eyes and hurried steps. Your first taste of it is simple. You wake up, your stomach rumbling, and with the few pennies Thomas advanced you clutched in your hand, you head to the same baker's shop whose pit you cleaned on your first night. The smell of fresh bread is intoxicating, a clean, wholesome scent that feels like a benediction. The baker's wife is serving, a cheerful, bustling woman. But as you step inside, a shadow crosses her face. Her smile tightens. She takes a half step back from the counter. You haven't even opened your mouth, but she knows. It's the smell. You thought you'd scrubbed it off, but it's there. A faint, telltale miasma that hangs about you like a shroud. It's in your clothes woven into the cheap wool. It's in your hair. It's emanating from your very skin. You ask for a loaf of bread. She takes your coin with 2 fingers, as if it's contaminated, and pushes the loaf across the counter rather than handing it to you. Her movements are quick, efficient, and eager to have you gone. Other customers in the small shop subtly shift away, creating a bubble of empty space around you. Nobody says a word. Nobody has to. You walk out of the shop, the warm loaf in your hands feeling like a brand. The rejection is a cold knot in your chest. They were happy enough to have you take away their filth in the dead of night, but in the light of day you are the filth. This scene repeats itself in different ways. You try to have a pint of ale at a tavern, not the smoky den where you met Thomas, but a brighter, more respectable establishment. The patrons near you fall silent, finish their drinks, and move to the other side of the room. The barman serves you with a grimace, wiping down the counter where you leaned immediately after you step away. Children in the street, who would normally be running and shouting with abandon, sometimes stop and point as you pass. One of them might trinkle their nose and yell a name you're beginning to learn is yours, muck man. Their parents will quickly shush them and hurry them away, not with anger at the insult, but with a quiet urgency, as if you are a source of genuine contamination. You learn to navigate the city differently. You stick to the back alleys, the less crowded thoroughfares. You do your shopping quickly, your eyes downcast. You learn to anticipate the reaction, to steel yourself against the subtle, daily humiliations. You are a ghost in your own life, visible only when people wish you weren't. The social ostracism is absolute. It's not just about the smell represents. In an age where disease is a constant, terrifying presence, and its causes are poorly understood, you are seen as a walking embodiment of sickness. The prevailing medical theory of the time is the miasma theory, the belief that diseases, like the plague or the sweating sickness, are caused by bad air, by foul vapors rising from decay and waste. You spend your nights literally immersed in the source of this supposed miasma. To the public, you are not just smelly, you are a potential carrier of death. There is a long-running debate among historians about the precise social standing of Gong farmers. Were they truly untouchables on par with lepers, or was their relationship with society more complex, a mixture of revulsion and grudging respect for the necessity of their work for you, living it day by day? There is no debate. You are an outcast. The good pay is the price society offers you to accept this exile. One afternoon, seeking a moment of peace, you walk towards one of the city's many churches. You plan to sit in the back, in the cool, quiet dark. But as you approach the heavy wooden doors, the priest is standing outside. He sees you coming. He sees you coming. His face, which was serene, closes up. He holds up a hand, not in blessing, but to stop you. "My son," he says, his voice devoid of warmth, "perhaps it is better to pray in the open air. The house of God must be kept sweet for all. He doesn't forbid you from entering. He doesn't have to. The message is clear. You are to foul even for God's house. You turn away, the sting of this rejection sharper than any other. You are not just socially ostracized, you are spiritually quarantined. You retreat to your small room, the sounds of the living city filtering through the walls. You are a part of this city, a vital, functioning cog in its machine. You keep it from drowning in its own waste, but you are not allowed to be of it. You exist in a paradox, utterly essential and completely unwanted. The coins in your pocket feel heavy, not with promise, but with the weight of your isolation. As your life becomes a cycle of nocturnal labor and daytime isolation, your perception of London begins to radically change. Most people learn a city by its grand avenues, its bustling markets, its towering church spires. You are learning it from the ground down. Your map of London isn't made of streets and landmarks, it's a subterranean network of pits and tunnels, a secret geography of filth. Each night, Thomas navigates the cart through the sleeping city, and you begin to build a mental blueprint based on your destinations. You learn that the city has a distinct digestive system, and the nature of the gong tells you everything you need to know about the neighborhood you're in. In the cramped, teeming alleys of Chertside or the Liberties, where the poor are packed into rickety tenements, the pits are often communal. They are shallow, poorly constructed, and overflowing. The work here is fast, frequent, and desperate. The night soil you haul from these places is thin and watery, a testament to the meager, grain-heavy diet of the inhabitants. You find yourself working shoulder to shoulder with the shadows of dozens of families, their collective poverty concentrated in the pit beneath your feet. The pay is meager, often collected in half-pennies from a dozen different hands, but the need is constant. Then there are the middling sorts, the merchants. The mosses are larger, their yards more spacious. Here, the privies are usually private, serving a single family. The pits are deeper, better constructed, often lined with good quality brick or stone. Cleaning them is a more substantial job, taking most of the night. The contents are different too, richer, denser. Here you might find the undigested seeds of expensive imported fruits, or even the tiny bones of game birds. It's a direct, unfiltered glimpse into their prosperity. You are literally excavating the evidence of their wealth. It's through this work that you come to understand the city's true layout. You learn the king house on a main thoroughfare might have its privy backing onto a slum, its waste mingling with that of the poorest citizens. You see how the city's annotation or lack thereof is a great equalizer. A lord's waste might be contained in a stone-lined vault, but it smells just as foul as a beggar's. One night, Thomas takes you to a new area, closer to the river. The Fleet, he says, pointing with his chin towards a dark, sluggish channel of water. It's supposed to be a river, a tributary of the Thames, but it's choked with refuse. The banks are piled high with garbage, and the water itself is a thick black ooze. This isn't a natural river anymore, it's an open sewer. Many of the houses and workshops that line its banks have built their privies directly over it. Their waste shoots emptying straight into the sluggish current. "We don't get much work here," Jack mutters from the back of the cart. They think the river will wash it all away, but it doesn't. It festers. The Fleet ditch is infamous throughout London for its stench, a permanent, miasmatic cloud that hangs over the entire district. It's a monument to the city's short-sightedness. It's also a source of academic debate that continues to this day. How aware were to the Londoners of the link between contaminated water and disease, while the miasma theory focused on bad air? Some historical texts suggest a growing, nagging suspicion that fouled water was also a source of sickness. Looking at the Fleet, it's hard to imagine they didn't have some inkling. Your work gives you a unique perspective on this. You are part of a system, a private, ad hoc system that tries to prevent the entire city from becoming the Fleet ditch. Every pit you empty is a small victory against the encroaching tide of filth. You also learn to read the smells. Cheapside has a sour, acidic tang. The areas near the tanneries, with their animal hides and chemical treatments, have a sharp, acrid smell that makes your eyes water. The wealthy neighborhoods have a richer, almost fungal scent. You can navigate by smell, as much as by sight, a skill unique to you and your brethren. This subterranean knowledge gives you a strange sense of power. You know the city's secrets. You know what lies beneath the flagstones and behind the neat facades. You've seen the undigested evidence of a lord's feast and the meager leavings of a pauper's meal. You've touched the physical reality of their lives in a way no one else has. One evening, while waiting for the 9 o'clock bell, Thomas unrolls a crude map of the city on the back of the cart. But he doesn't point to the Tower of London or street, Paul's Cathedral. Instead, he taps a series of seemingly random points in different boroughs. This one, he says, pointing to a spot near Ludgate, is a deep one. Good stone, but the entrance is narrow. A real devil to get the barrels through. He taps another spot near the Shambles, the butcher's district. This one's always full of blood and offal. A heavy, nasty job. You realize HES showing you his London. A city defined not by its glories but by its guts. And as you look at the map, you start to add your own mental notes, your own landmarks of filth and fortune. You are no longer just an inhabitant of London. You are becoming one of its secret keepers, a cartographer of its underworld. The summons comes on a crisp autumn evening. It's not the usual word-of-mouth request from a steward or a frantic call from a tenement landlord. This is different. A boy dressed in the smart livery of a noble house approaches your cart just as you're preparing for the night's work. He keeps his distance, his nose wrinkled in disgust, and hands Thomas a sealed parchment. Thomas breaks the wax seal and squints at the elegant script in the flickering lantern light. A low whistle escapes his lips. "Well, lads," he says, a strange mix of pride and apprehension in his voice, "we're moving up in the world. We've been called to the Strand. The Strand is not your usual territory. It's a fashionable, aristocratic district, a prestigious road that connects the City of London to the royal hub of Westminster. It's lined with the grand mansions of some of the most powerful people in England, their gardens sloping down to the River Thames. The air here even smells different, cleaner, laced with the scent of wood smoke from well-fed fires and the damp, earthy smell of the river. Your cart, a familiar and functional object in the city's grimy back alleys, feels scandalously out of place here. It rumbles along the grand, wide street like a dirty word spoken in a cathedral. The houses are vast, dark shapes against the moonlight, their many windows like 100 sleeping eyes. You feel a new kind of nervousness, a step above the usual dread. This isn't just about cleaning a pit, it's about entering the orbit of the powerful, a world where a misstep could have serious consequences. You arrive at the service entrance of a massive house, a sprawling to-do edifice of brick and timber. The steward, a man with a severe face and an immaculate white ruff that seems to glow in the darkness, is waiting for you. He treats you with a cold, formal disdain as if you are a necessary but unpleasant medical procedure. "My lord's house requires your services," he says, his voice clipped. "The facility is in the east wing. You will be quick, you will be silent, and you will leave no trace of your presence. Is that understood?" Thomas just nods, his face an unreadable mask. The steward leads you through a labyrinth of manicured gardens and high brick walls to a secluded courtyard. Here, tucked away behind a trellis of dying roses, is the privy. But this is unlike any privy you have seen before. It's a proper building, a small solid structure of oak and stone. It serves the main house, a place where dozens of family members, guests, and high-ranking servants reside. The pit itself is a testament to the wealth of the household. The stone slab covering it is enormous, requiring all three of you to use levers to shift it. When it opens, the stench is familiar, yet different. It's richer, more potent. It smells of wealth. You descend into what feels less like a pit and more like a cavern, a vast, brick-lined chamber that goes deeper than any you've been in before. The scale of it is staggering. This isn't a receptacle, it's an underground hall dedicated to waste. As you begin the familiar grueling work, the contrast between your reality and the world above has never been more stark. You are knee-deep in the literal filth of a noble family, while just a few yards away, through stone walls and oak doors, they are sleeping in soft beds under expensive tapestries. You are breathing in the foul end product of their lavish feasts, the wine, the roasted meats, the sugary confection. This is the great, unspoken secret of aristocratic life. Their glittering, perfumed world is built directly on top of a foundation of waste, and it's your job to manage it. Their comfort depends entirely on your willingness to endure this. A fascinating and bizarre little detail from this era is the role of the groom of the stool, a high-ranking courtier whose job it was to attend the king during his bowel movements. This was considered a position of immense prestige and intimacy, as the groom of the stool was one of the few people who had private, unguarded access to the monarch. Historians are still fascinated by this paradox, how the most intimate and unclean bodily function could be tied to the highest political influence. Here in this pit, you are the groom of the stool for an entire noble household, but you receive none of the prestige, only the coin. The work is slow and exhausting. The sheer volume is immense. Bucket after bucket is hauled up, and the cart, which usually takes 2 or 3 jobs to fill, is filled from this one pit alone. You work in a trance of sweat and toil. The rhythmic slush of the bucket and the scrape of the shovel, the only sounds in your subterranean world. At one point, the light appears in one of the high windows of the main house. You can just see the silhouette of a woman in a nightdress, holding a candle, perhaps woken by a faint, unfamiliar noise. She looks out into the darkness for a moment, her gaze passing right over the courtyard, seeing nothing. Then she turns and disappears. The light goes out. You are invisible, a secret servant of the house's most basic needs. When the job is finally done hours later, you are covered in more than just grime. You are coated in the intimate, visceral reality of the aristocracy. You climb out of the pit, your body screaming with fatigue, and the steward is there waiting. He doesn't look at you. He inspects the work, peering down into the now clean pit with a critical eye. Satisfied, he turns, drops a heavy purse of coins into Thomas' outstretched hand, and says, "Begone." As you guide the heavy, stinking cart away from the grand house, back towards the familiar squalor of the city, the coins in Thomas' purse jingle with a weight that is more than just metal. It's the weight of the profound, unbridgeable gap between their world and yours. You have been inside their fortress, seen its dirty secret, and been paid to forget it. The work, by its very nature, is a descent into darkness. But you've been lucky so far. The pits have been stable, the air breathable, the work merely disgusting and exhausting. You started to fall into a dangerous rhythm, a sense of routine that breeds complacency. Tonight, that complacency will be shattered. The job is in a district you don't particularly like. It's an area of reclaimed marshland, where the ground is notoriously soft and unstable. The houses are old, their foundations slowly sinking into the damp earth. The pit belongs to a dyer's workshop, and the ground around it is stained with colorful chemical runoff. From the start, something feels off. The stone slab over the pit is cracked, and the ground around it seems to sag slightly. Thomas eyes it with suspicion. "Tread carefully here," he warns. The ground's not happy. Jack, ever the pessimist, spits on the ground. "I don't like it. These dyers, they pour all sorts of foulness down here, not just the usual stuff. HES right. When you open the pit, the smell is different. Underneath the familiar ammoniac tang, there's a sharp chemical bitterness. It's the waste from the dying vats, a cocktail of mordantassin colorant that stings the back of your throat. But the job needs doing, and the dyer is paying well to have it cleared. You take a breath, preparing yourself, and begin your descent. The ladder feels more precarious than usual, the rungs slick with a slimy residue that's different from the usual grime. You reach the bottom, sinking into the foul-smelling sludge. It's thicker here, with a strange, viscous quality. You get to work, the familiar routine a small comfort in the unsettling environment. Scoop, tug, wait. The rhythm is your anchor. Your ear about halfway through the job when you hear it. A low trickling sound. You pause, straining your ears over the sosh of your own movements. It's the sound of shifting earth. A few pebbles skittered down the side of the pit, plopping into the mire around you. "What was that?" Jack's voice calls from above, sharp with alarm. "Just some loose dirt," you call back, trying to sound more confident than you feel. You try to go back to work, but your body is tense, every nerve on high alert. The trickling sound continues, growing slightly louder. You shine your small personal tallow lamp, a new acquisition you bought to supplement the main lantern above along the walls of the pit. The brickwork seems solid enough, but above the bricks, the wrought wall looks dark and wet. This is the primary physical danger of your job. Not the filth, but the pit itself. Drowning in waste was a real, horrifying end for some Gong farmers. But an even more common danger was being buried alive. A pit collapse could happen in seconds, the unstable earth giving way without warning. You try to push the fear down and keep working. You're a professional now. You have a job to do. But then you feel a vibration through the soles of your boots, a deep, ominous shudder from the ground itself. The trickling sound becomes a small cascade of dirt and stones. "Get out." Now, Thomas voices a roar from above. There's no discussion, no hesitation. The order is absolute. Adrenaline floods your system cold and sharp. You drop the shovel. It's swallowed by the sludge with a greedy gulp. You lunge for the ladder, your hands grabbing the slick rungs. You pull yourself up, your feet finding purchase, your muscles straining. The pit, which had been your workplace, is suddenly a trap, a closing throat. You're halfway up when a whole section of the earthen wall above the brickwork gives way. A torrent of wet soil, rocks, and filth pours into the pit. It doesn't fall on you directly, but the force of it shakes the entire structure. The ladder bucks violently. You cling on, your knuckles white, the rough wood digging into your palms. For a terrifying second, you think the whole pit is coming down. The air fills with a cloud of dust and the intensified stench of the disturbed sludge. You scramble the rest of the way up frantic, not stopping until your hands are on the solid ground of the yard. Jack and Thomas haul you the last few feet, pulling you away from the edge of the gaping hole. You lie on the ground, panting, your heart hammering like a drum against your ribs. Your body is trembling uncontrollably. You've faced social rejection, disgust, and exhaustion. But this is the first time you have faced the raw, physical lethality of the work. You have stared into the abyss, and the abyss has tried to swallow you. Thomas helps you to your feet. His face is grim. That's it for tonight. We're not going back down there. He turns to the dyer, who has come out to see what the commotion is about. The pit is unstable. It's a death trap, word on. The dyer protests, worried about his overflowing privy, but Thomas is firm. He explains that the pit needs to be reinforced, redug, maybe even moved. This leads to another one of those quiet academic questions: who was responsible for the structural integrity of assessment? Was it the landlord's duty? Or did some of the responsibility fall to the gong farmer to assess the risk? The law was often murky on these points, leaving it to be settled by custom and confrontation, just like this one. As you limp back to the cart, leaving your shovel behind as a sacrifice to the treacherous ground, the reality of the night's events begins to sink in. You almost died, not in a glorious battle or from a noble sickness, but in a collapsing hole full of dye waste and human filth. That night, sleep doesn't come easily. Every time you close your eyes, you feel the shudder of the earth, the terrifying sensation of the walls closing in. The fear is a cold, metallic taste in your mouth. The good pay suddenly seems wholly inadequate compensation for the risks you are taking. You now understand the grim stories Jack and Thomas sometimes tell. You've become a character in one of them. The morning after your near disaster, you don't feel like getting out of your cot. Your body is a map of bruises and aches, but it's the fear that truly holds you down, a heavy, suffocating blanket. The memory of the collapsing pit plays over and over in your mind. Thomas, however, is having none of it. He kicks the leg of your bed. Up. He says the word with a deliberate lack of ceremony, but it cuts through your torpor. Payday. For the past month of grueling, dangerous, humiliating work, you have been living on small advances for food and lodging. Today, you get the balance. He leads you not to a counting house or a guild hall, but to his own cramped, surprisingly neat quarters. The air inside smells faintly of tallow and old leather, a welcome change from your own perpetually tainted room. On a small wooden table sits a worn leather pouch. Thomas upends it, and a cascade of silver and copper coins spills out, glinting in the single beam of dusty sunlight piercing the gloom. It's the most money you have ever seen in one place. He counts it out methodically. A pile for himself, a pile for Jack, and a pile for you. Your share is a small mountain of shillings and groats, with a few larger, heavier coins you don't even recognize. It's a fortune. It's more than your father earned in 2 years of back-breaking farm labor, battling drought and pests. You stare at the pile, mesmerized. Go on, Thomas says gruffly. It's yours. You earned every last penny of it. You reach out and touch the coins. They are cool and solid, real. This is the trade-off. This is the reason you descend into the pits. You scoop the money into a small cloth bag, the weight of it in your hand a strange and powerful sensation. It feels like an anchor, something to tether you to the world that shuns you. Your first stop is not the tavern. It's the bootmaker. You walk into the shop, the smell of new leather a glorious perfume. The cobbler, a stern man with ink-stained fingers, looks you up and down, his nose wrinkling slightly. But when you place 3 solid silver coins on his counter and ask for his best, sturdiest, waterproof boots, his demeanor changes. Disgust gives way to a grudging, professional respect. Money, you are learning, has its own scent, and it can sometimes overpower the stench of your trade. He measures your feet, and you select a pair of high, thick leather boots, the kind Thomas and Jack wear. They are stiff and new, and when you pull them on, you feel a sense of security you haven't felt since you arrived in London. They are a shield, a piece of armor against the filth. Next, you buy food. Not just a crust of bread, but a whole meat pie hot from the oven, oozing with rich gravy. You find a quiet spot by the river, away from the crowds, and you eat it slowly, savoring every bite. The taste is magnificent, but it's mixed with a complex cocktail of emotions. This pie, this simple luxury, was paid for by your proximity to death. It was purchased with humiliation and financed by filth. Does that make it taste better? Or worse, you're not sure. You spend the rest of the day in a daze, the weight of the coin purses against your hip. You buy a new woolen tunic, a thick blanket for your cot. Small things, but they feel like monumental luxuries. You are translating your grim labor into comfort, into survival. That evening, you, Thomas, and Jack go to a specific tavern. It's not the one where you first met, nor is it one of the respectable establishments that would shun you. It's a place you're starting to learn about, a night worker's den, tucked away in a rough neighborhood. It's a haven for the city's other nocturnal laborers, the watchmen coming off their shifts, the charcoal burners, the rat catchers. Here, no one turns up their nose at your smell. Everyone smells of something: sweat, charcoal dust, or the faint, musky scent of dead rats. You stride in, your new boots making a satisfying clomp on the grimy floorboards. Thomas orders a round of strong dark ale. You slap your own coin on the bar, and it feels good. You are not a charity case. You are paying your own way. The ale is bitter and strong, and it warms you from the inside out. As you drink, you listen to the conversations around you. Men complain about the watch commander, boast about the number of rats they caught, share tips on where to get the best price for charcoal. It's a mirror world to the daytime society of merchants and craftsmen, with its own hierarchies, its own gossip, its own economy. It's here you learn another curious fact. The term gong farmer itself, while a useful euphemism, may have been a bit of a joke. The word farmer was sometimes used ironically to describe someone who dealt in filth, like a mole farmer for a mole catcher. The academic jury is still out on whether gong farmer was a term of self-proclaimed dignity or a piece of grim, working-class gallows humor. You suspect it's a bit of both. Jack, loosened up by the ale, claps you on the back. See, almost dying has its perks. He raises his tankard to the dyer's pit. May it rot and stink for 100 years. You all drink to that. A strange sense of camaraderie settles over you. You have shared danger, and now you are sharing the reward. You look at the coins you have left. It's still a significant amount. For the first time, a thought flickers in your mind, a thought beyond simple survival. This money isn't just for boots and pies. If you can survive this job, if you can keep earning like this money could be a way out. It could be the foundation of a different life. The thought is both exhilarating and terrifying. It gives the danger a purpose. The shared danger in the dyer's pit and the shared reward of payday acts as a crucible, forging a real bond between you, Thomas, and Jack. The silence in the cart is no longer just weary, but companionable. The work, while still disgusting, becomes a shared trial. And the tavern, that smoky, noisy haven for the city's night crawlers, becomes your sanctuary. It's called the Bell and Bucket. A name that, to the uninitiated, sounds perfectly ordinary, but you know better. The bell is for the 9 o'clock bell that signals the start of your workday. And the bucket, well, that's self-explanatory. It's a place that understands your life without you having to say a word. This tavern is your confessional, your social club, and your support group all rolled into one. Here you are not an outcast. You are a regular. The landlord, a burly man with a scarred face named Silas, treats you all with the same gruff respect. He knows your work keeps the city from becoming an open sewer, and he values your custom. The money from a gong farmer is as good as anyone else's, and you're known to be good payers. It's in the warm, ale-scented effigy of the Bell and Bucket that you finally start to see behind Jack's sour-faced mask. One night after a particularly long and messy job, H.E. is quieter than usual. After his third pint of ale, he finally opens up. He tells you he wasn't born to this life. His father was a respectable weaver, part of a proud guild. But fired their workshop and loom, plunging the family into debt, with no prospects. Jack took the only job that would pay enough to support his widowed mother and younger sisters. I hate it, he says, staring into his tankard. Every night, I hate the smell, the filth, the way people look at me. But my sisters are eating. My mother has a roof over her head, so I keep doing it. It's a stark reminder that everyone in this trade has a story. No one chooses to be a gong farmer. It's a profession born of desperation, a last resort for those whom society has failed in some other way. Thomas Ullern was a soldier who came back from the wars in France with a leg injury that left him unable to do farm work. The pension was a pittance. The pits were his only option. These stories create a powerful, unspoken bond. You are all refugees from other lives, united by the shared necessity of this foul work. You talk about the jobs, which pits are the worst, which clients are stingy, which neighborhoods have the most aggressive dogs. You share tips on how to get certain stains out of leather, or the best kind of tallow to use for waterproofing your boots. It's a highly specialized, deeply practical conversation that no one outside your circle could possibly understand. You also share the grim humor that is the exclusive property of those who work in desperate conditions. You joke about the things you find in the pits. You give nicknames to particularly awful jobs. This gallows humor is a vital coping mechanism, or way to laugh at the horror and absurdity of your daily life. It's what keeps you from going mad. One night, another group of night men comes into the tavern. There's a brief moment of tension. You learn that while you are all brothers in filth, you are also rivals. The city is divided into informal territories. Different crews at different areas they typically work. A kind of cold war exists over the most lucrative contracts, like the great houses on the Strand. There's a complex social dynamic at play that historians can only guess at through court records of disputes. Was there a formal guild of gong farmers, or was it an unwritten code of conduct? The evidence is thin, suggesting it was more of the latter, a system of custom and reputation, enforced by threats and the occasional brawl. Thomas, being one of the oldest and most established farmers in the city, is treated with a degree of deference. He nods to the other crew's leader, a man with a fearsome scar down his face. A silent understanding passes between them, a respect between professionals. You are part of a very exclusive, very strange club. And this tavern is your only clubhouse. The camaraderie of the Bell and Bucket is a potent brew, a temporary anesthetic against the pains of your life. But like any drink, its effects eventually wear off. They wear off the moment you leave the smoky warmth of the tavern and step back into the cold night air. They are entirely gone by the time you reach the door to your small rented room. You push the door open and the smell hits you. It's your own smell. Your work smell. In the tavern, surrounded by the odors of sweat, ale, and wood smoke, it was muted, part of the general tapestry of scents. Here, in this small, enclosed space, it is the undisputed king. It has seeped into everything. The thin mattress stuffed with straw. The single woolen blanket, the very wooden planks of the floor and walls seem to have absorbed it. Your room has become a tiny, sealed echo of the pits you spend your nights in. This is the starkest truth of your new life. You can never leave the work behind. It follows you home. It tucks you into bed. It is the first thing you sense when you wake. You've tried to fight it. In the first few weeks, you would spend a portion of your earnings on harsh, lye-based soap and scrub yourself raw at the public water pump, the icy water raising goosebumps on your skin. But it's a fool's errand that can be washed away. It's an oil-based, deeply penetrating substance that has worked its way into the very pores of your skin. Under your fingernails, it's a permanent, dark crescent. It's a deep, ingrained shadow. You can scrub until your skin is red and bleeding, but the ghost of the scent remains. Worse, your own sense of smell has betrayed you. You've become desensitized to the primary, overwhelming stench. You can no longer accurately gauge how strongly you smell. Your only measure is the reaction of others. You have learned to see your own odor on the faces of strangers, the slight flare of a nostril, the subtle wrinkling of a nose, the hand that casually comes up to cover a mouth. You are effectively blind to your own condition, able to perceive it only through its reflection in the eyes of the world. This is a crucial distinction into London. It's not as if the city is a fragrant paradise. Far from it. The streets are filled with the smells of animal dung, rotting garbage, and unwashed bodies. Personal hygiene is a luxury few can afford and even fewer prioritize. The wealthy don't bathe often. Instead, they mask their body odor with powerful perfumes, with civet and musk. They carry pomander, small metal bowls filled with aromatic spices and herbs, which they hold to their noses in smelly crowd. The poor simply smell of sweat and labor. But your smell is different. It's not the acceptable, everyday odor of life. It is the specific, taboo scent of human waste. It's the smell of sickness and decay, the very thing the miasma theory warns against. It marks you out not just as unwashed, but as unclean in a more fundamental, almost spiritual way. It's an invisible uniform you can never take off. One afternoon, you see something that fills you with a sense of profound, bitter irony. You see women from a laundry guild hauling buckets of urine. Stale urine, collected and left to ferment. You know from tavern chatter that they use it for cleaning and bleaching fine linens. The ammonia in the aged liquid is a powerful cleansing agent. This is a widely known, if rarely discussed, fact of city life. They use a product of the human body to make things clean and white. Yet you, who deals with the other product, are considered the embodiment of all that is foul. The hypocrisy of it is a sharp, indigestible lump in your throat. The stain of your work is more than just a smell, it dictates the entire geography of your daytime existence. You know which bakers will serve you without comment, which butchers will tolerate your presence. You learn to live in the margins, to make yourself small, to minimize the offense of your very existence. Historians still debate the full psychological toll this constant sensory assault and social rejection took on these men. The records are silent on their inner lives, speaking only of contracts and disputes. Did they suffer from a kind of deep-seated depression, a permanent sense of shame, or did they, through camaraderie and grim humor, build a psychological fortress around themselves living it? You know the answer is both. You have moments of laughter and belonging with Thomas and Jack, but in the solitude of your room, the weight of the stain is crushing. You sit on your cot and look at your hands. They are strong, calloused, and capable. They earn you more money than you ever dreamed of. But they are irredeemably tainted. You can buy new boots, a warm tunic, a full meal. But you can never buy back the simple, uncomplicated pleasure of being clean. You can never again walk into a crowded room and be anonymous. The smell is your shadow, your name, your story. It is the permanent, unwashable price of your survival. The smell is your brand, but the schedule is your cage. Your life is now completely inverted, a photographic negative of the world around you. You have become a creature of the night, and the sun, that universal symbol of life and warmth, has become your enemy. Your day begins when everyone else's is ending. As the last of the merchants are closing their shutters and families are gathering for their evening meal, you are waking up. You are waking up. You are waking up. Your eyes stretch your aching muscles and eat a cold meal while the city outside settles into slumber. Your workday starts with the 9 o'clock bell, just as the rest of 9 o'clock bell, just as the rest of London is pulling up their blankets. You toil through the deep, silent hours when the city is at its most vulnerable, its most asleep. The only other souls you see are the occasional, weary watchman, a stray dog, or perhaps a stumbling drunkard making his way home. This nocturnal world has its own strange beauty. The way the moonlight catches on a wet cobblestone, the stark, sharp-edged shadows cast by the buildings, the profound silence of a city of 500,000 people holding its breath. You see London in a way that its daytime inhabitants never will. You are the sole audience for its secret, nightly performance. But this secret world comes at a cost. When your work is done, as the first grey light of dawn begins to silhouette the eastern rooftops, you are filled with a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. You guide the cart back to its resting place, the sounds of the waking city, the first baker firing up his oven, the distant crow of a rooster acting as your cue to exit the stage. You retreat to your room just as the world is coming to life. You hear the clatter of feet on the street outside, the shouts of vendors setting up their stalls, the cheerful noise of a world you are no longer truly part of. You pull your thin blanket over your head, trying to block out the light and the sound, and force yourself to sleep. Sleep during the day is a different kind of rest. It's thin, shallow, and easily disturbed. It's a battle against the sun, which seems to find every crack in your shuttered window, and against the noise of the living world, which feels like a constant, intrusive interruption. You often wake up in the afternoon feeling groggy and disoriented, as if you surfaced from a deep dive too quickly. This inverted life messes with your body and your mind. Your skin takes on a pale, sallow complexion from the lack of sunlight, a stark contrast to the healthy, sun-browned skin of the farmers and laborers you see in the streets. You feel perpetually out of sync, the gear turning against the main mechanism of the city. The daytime, once the stage for your life, is now a time of anxiety. When you have to venture out for supplies, the bright sunlight feels harsh and accusing. The bustling crowds, the sheer energy of the city, feels overwhelming after the quiet solitude of your nights. You feel like a mole blinking in the sun, exposed and vulnerable. This lifestyle creates a profound sense of alienation. You are living in London but not with it. Your rhythms are not its rhythms. You celebrate no holidays because they are daytime events. You miss the simple, communal pleasures of a shared meal in the sunshine, the camaraderie of a market day, the lazy warmth of a summer afternoon. Your life has been stripped of these small, vital joys. One afternoon, you are woken by the sound of bells ringing joyously all across the city. You stumble to your window and see people pouring into the streets, dressed in their finest clothes. There are ribbons, music, and laughter. It's a saint's day, a public holiday you had completely forgotten about. From your darkened room, you watch the celebration as if it were a foreign spectacle. You are an observer, a ghost at the feast, separated from the joy by the invisible wall of your profession. The medical understanding of your time, while dominated by the miasma theory, also contained nascent ideas about balance. The theory of the four humours blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile suggested that health depended on these fluids being in equilibrium. Many believed this balance was influenced by one's environment and daily routine. A physician of the air might have argued that your nocturnal life was dangerously imbalanced, inviting an excess of black bile. The humour associated with melancholiness, whether you believe in the humours or not, you feel the truth of it in your bones. There is a coldness, a melancholy, that has seeped into you along with the damp of the pits. Thomas and Jack feel it too. You see it in their weary eyes and the way they carry themselves. They have the quiet, reserved demeanour of men who live their lives in the shadows. The bell and bucket is your only outlet, the only place where you can pretend, for a few hours, to be part of a community. But it's a community of outcasts, a society of shadows. You start to cherish the night for its simplicity. Out there, in the dark, you have a purpose. You are a professional, a vital functionary. The rules are clear. The rules are clear. The work is honest, in its own foul way. It's the daylight, with its judgments, its noise, and its vibrant life from which you are excluded, that has become the true ordeal. You are a king in a kingdom of filth and darkness, but a beggar in the realm of the sun. Your education in the world of waste continues night by night, pit by pit. You've learned the geography, the tools, and the social codes. Now, you begin to appreciate the finer points of the technology itself. You learn that not all privies are created equal. The design and construction of the place where people answered nature's call said as much about them as the clothes on their back. Cleaning these is a miserable, but straightforward affair. The pits are shallow, so the danger of bad air is lower. But because they are unlined, the surrounding earth becomes saturated with waste, making the ground unstable and the smell a permanent feature of the yard. You often have to dig out the contaminated soil around the pit, as well, making the job larger than it first appears. It's a classic case of the poor paying more in the long run. Their cheap privies require more frequent and difficult cleaning. In the homes of the slightly more affluent, the merchants and master artisans, you encounter the true Gomor jakes. These are more permanent structures, often built of brick or stone, and the pits beneath them are properly lined. Sometimes, they are even integrated into the house itself, located in a small, purpose-built closet, a revolutionary step towards indoor plumbing. One night you work on one of these. It's a 2-story house, and the privy is a small room on the ground floor. A vertical shaft or chute leads directly down into the sealed, stone-lined cesspit in the cellar. This design is a huge leap in convenience for the homeowners. They don't have to go out into the cold yard at night, but for you, it presents a new set of challenges. Accessing the pit means going into the house's cellar, maneuvering your buckets and barrels through narrow passages, and trying not to taint the entire dwelling with your presence. The work is warmer and drier, but the risk of social contamination is much higher. Then there are the great houses like the one you visited on the Strand. Here you see the pinnacle of to-the-toilet technology. These mansions sometimes feature multi-story toilet towers, with a privy on each floor built one above the other, all sharing a single, massive waste shaft that empties into a cavernous vault at the bottom. This is the Tudor equivalent of a skyscraper's plumbing system. The engineering is impressive, but the job of emptying the vault at the bottom is a monumental undertaking, sometimes taking a full week of nightly labor. The most fascinating and sometimes frustrating discoveries are the attempts at innovation. You encounter pits with strange, filtered drainage systems that have long since clogged and failed. You see chutes lined with lead, an expensive but durable material. You even hear whispers, though you never see one yourself, of the great technological marvel of the age, the flushing toilet. Sir John Harrington, a godson of Queen Elizabeth I, had famously designed a water closet for his own home in the 1592. It had a cistern, a flush valve, and a washdown bowl. He even installed one for the Queen at Richmond Palace. This is a favorite factoid for history buffs. The idea of a flushing toilet existing in Tudor England seems so anachronistic and modern. But the reality, which you understand implicitly, is that it was a novelty for the super-rich, not a practical solution for the city. Why? Because a flushing toilet is useless without a sewer system to connect it to. All it really did was use a great deal of clean water to flush waste from a bowl into the same old cesspit in the basement. For you, a flush toilet would just mean a much more watery, sloshing cesspit to empty. The fundamental problem remained, and you were its only solution. There is a continuing scholarly discussion on how quickly sanitation technology evolved. Was it a slow, gradual process, or were there sudden leaps forward? Like Harrington's invention, your experience suggests the former. For everyone fancy, innovative design, there are 1,000 simple, stinking holes in the ground. The city's sanitation is a messy patchwork of different eras and different levels of wealth, all coexisting. You also learn the difference between a dry and a wet system. Some households, particularly those with stables, would throw straw, sawdust, or other dry materials into the pit to help absorb moisture and reduce the smell. This results in a more solid, compost-like niche soil that is easier to shovel and highly by farmers. Other pits, especially those that collect kitchen slop and rainwater runoff, are watery, smelly, and much harder to clean. You learn to price your jobs accordingly, based on a quick, expert assessment of the previous design and likely contents. This growing expertise gives you a strange sense of professional pride. You are no longer just a laborer, you are a specialist, a sanitation consultant. You can look at a privy and diagnose its flaws, predict its problems, and prescribe the correct course of action. It's a filthy, thankless field of expertise, but it is expertise nonetheless. And in a city where knowledge means survival, you are becoming a master of your dark, dirty craft. You've come to accept that your job is to remove waste. But you soon discover that you're not just hauling away filth. You are, in a strange way, a treasure hunter. The cesspit is the final resting place for everything the city loses, forgets, or throws away. Each pit is a time capsule, and you are its unwitting archaeologist. At first, you don't notice it. You're either focused on the grueling labor, the sheer volume of the sludge, but as your senses dull to the overwhelming stench and your movements become more automatic, you start to pay attention to the texture of the mire. You feel things under your shovel, things that are hard, solid, and out of place. Your first find is mundane. A pewter spoon, tarnished almost black, its handle slightly bent. It was probably dropped down the pretty hole by accident, a costly mistake for the family who owned it. You wipe it clean on your leather trousers and tuck it into your pouch. It's not worth much, but it's more than nothing. Soon you're finding all sorts of things. A child's small leather ball, a single die from a game of chance, broken pieces of pottery. These are the mundane casualties of daily life, the small, lost fragments of 100 forgotten stories. Who was the child who cried over their lost ball? Who was the gambler who cursed their luck as their die disappeared into the darkness? The pit holds their secrets. The objects you find often reflect the neighborhood. In the pits behind taverns, you find a surprising number of rings that slipped from greasy fingers, or were perhaps discarded in a moment of drunken despair. You find broken clay pipes and the occasional coin, dropped from a purse during a clumsy moment in the dark. This is a well-documented phenomenon. Archaeological digs of Tudorera Cespedes have yielded a treasure trove of everyday objects, giving historians a direct, tangible link to the past. These finds are invaluable because they represent the real, unfiltered lives of people, not just the sanitized version presented in official documents. You are, without knowing it, a primary researcher in the field of historical anthropology. One night, while cleaning the pit of a wealthy merchant's house, your shovel links against something hard. You reach down into the cold sludge, your fingers probing the darkness, and close round a small, heavy object. You pull it out. It's a lady's silver locket, intricately carved with flowers. It's tarnished and fouled, but when you force the clasp open, it reveals two miniature portraits, miraculously preserved. A man and a woman, their faces painted with delicate precision. Intimate object to find in such a foul place. You can't help but wonder about its story. Was it a cherished keepsake, lost in a tragic accident, or was it thrown away in a moment of anger or heartbreak? You'll never know. You clean it as best you can and slip it into your pocket. It's a significant find, worth a good deal of money. The ethics of these finds are a murky area. Officially, anything found in the pit belongs to the property owner. This is a point of contention that still surfaces in historical legal records, disputes over valuable items recovered from Cespedes. But the unwritten rule among the Gong farmers is simple: finders keepers. The homeowner is paying you to remove the contents of the pit. All of the contents. What you do with the miscellaneous debris is your own business. It's a small secret bonus. A hidden perk of the world's worst job. Thomas teaches you how to discreetly sell these small treasures. There are specific merchants, back alley goldsmiths and pawnbrokers who ask no questions. They know where the goods come from, and they pay a discounted price, but they pay in cash. This side income becomes a small but significant part of your earnings. It's unpredictable, a lottery played out in the depths of the city's filth. Your most bizarre find comes from a pit near the London Wall. It's a complete set of dog bones articulated as if the poor creature fell in whole. It's a sad, slightly gruesome discovery. But nestled among the bones is a high-quality leather collar with a small, silver tag. The dog's name, Bess, is crudely engraved on it. For a moment, holding the tag, you feel a connection to a long-dead pet, a small, sad story playing out in your mind. These objects, these treasures, change your relationship with the work. It's no longer just a monotonous removal of waste. It's a hunt. A strange, foul-smelling treasure hunt. Every scoop of the shovel holds a small thrill of possibility. What might you find next? A lost coin, a discarded weapon, a secret love token. The pit becomes a kind of oracle, a repository of the city's subconscious. It's where the unwanted, the lost, and the secret things end up. And you, the reviled night man, are its sole interpreter. You are the keeper of lost things, the curator of the city's trash. It adds another layer of strangeness to your already surreal existence. You are a pariah who handles the city's most valuable secrets, a treasure hunter who finds his fortune in the filth. The rhythm of your life is governed by two things: the rising and setting of the sun, and the ringing of the city's bells. The bells are the heartbeat of London, a public clock that dictates the flow of commerce, prayer, and law. For you, two chimes are all that matter: the 9 o'clock bell in the evening, and the 5 o'clock bell in the morning. This isn't just custom, it's the law. A strict, legally enforced curfew on your profession. The statute is clear: Gong farmers must only conduct their business during the hours of darkness, from 9 p.m. until 5 a.m. To be caught working outside these hours is to risk a heavy fine, public humiliation in the stocks, or even imprisonment. This law serves a dual purpose. On the surface, it's a matter of public decency. The sight and smell of your work are considered deeply offensive to the citizenry. By restricting your labor to the night, the authorities effectively render your profession, and by extension you, invisible. You are a civic necessity that must not be seen. But the law also functions as a tool of social control. It reinforces your status as an outsider, a creature of the night who is not fit for the honest, sunlit world of day. It's a constant, ringing reminder of your place in the social order. Adhering to this curfew becomes the central organizing principle of every job. Before you even begin, Thomas makes a quick, expert calculation. He assesses the size of the pit, the consistency of the soil, and the difficulty of access. From this, he estimates how long the job will take. This is a 3-hour pit, he might declare. Well be done long before the morning bell. Or this one's a big one. Well work till 4:30 and see where we are. We may have to come back tomorrow night. The pressure of the clock is a constant presence. You work with a steady, relentless pace, always aware of the passing hours. There's no time for long breaks, no room for wasted effort. The slow rhythmic scrape and slush of your work is the percussion section in a symphony conducted by the clock tower. The city watch, the constables who patrol the streets at night, are the enforcers of this curfew. For the most part, they leave you alone. They understand the necessity of your work and are probably glad someone else is doing it. But they are also sticklers for the rules. They carry lanterns under a constant, roaming presence in the dark streets. One night, you have a close call. The job is unexpectedly difficult. The pit is deeper than it looked, and the sludge is mixed with rubble and debris, making every bucket a struggle. You lose track of time, lost in the trance of labor. Suddenly, you hear a sharp whistle from above. It's Jack, watchman S coming. You freeze. You can hear the steady tramp of feet and the fink of a weapon in the alley outside the yard. Thomas quickly deuses the main lantern, plunging the yard into near total darkness. He signals for you to be silent. You stand motionless in the pit, knee-deep in filth, holding your breath. The footsteps stop just outside the yard. You can hear the watchman's voice talking to someone. Your heart pounds in your chest. To be caught now would be disastrous. A fine would wipe out the profits of a week's work. The shame of the stocks being pelted with rotten fruit and insults by the very people whose filth you clean is an even more terrifying thought. After what feels like an eternity, the footsteps move on. The danger passes. Thomas waits a few more minutes before relighting the lantern. His face is grim. That was too close, he hisses. What time is it? You have no idea. In the dark of the pit, time is meaningless. It's past 4, Jack says, his voice tight. The sky's getting lighter. Thomas makes a swift decision. That's it. We're done for tonight. Pack it up. You protest. You're so close to finishing. Another half hour, maybe. No, Thomas says, his voice leaving no room for argument. The rule is the rule. We don't break it. Not for a few extra shillings. It's not worth the risk. This is a lesson in professional discipline. The temptation to push the limits to finish a job and get the full payment is strong. But the consequences of getting caught are severe. A good gong farmer, you learn, is not just a hard worker, he is a smart and cautious one. He respects the clock. This strict timetable has led to some interesting historical debates. Some scholars suggest that the curfew was not always strictly enforced, and that a well-placed bribe to a watchman could buy you an extra hour or two. Others argue that the records of fines and punishments prove the law was taken very seriously indeed. From your perspective, you know that Thomas would never risk it. His reputation, and your collective livelihood, depends on being discreet and law-abiding, even if the law is designed to marginalize you. As you pack up the cart and trundle through the streets, the eastern sky is indeed turning a pale pearly grey. The morning star is fading. The 5 o'clock bell begins to ring from a nearby church tower, its clear, solemn tones echoing through the quiet streets. For the rest of the city, it's a signal to wake to begin the day. For you, it's a final curtain, a command to disappear. You hurry your pace, an illicit ghost fleeing the coming dawn. Summer arrives in London not as a gentle warming, but as a smothering, oppressive blanket of heat. The stone buildings trap the warmth, and the narrow, sun-starved alleys, usually damp and cool, become stagnant, airless ovens. For most Londoners, it's a time of discomfort, of sweat and sleepless nights. For you, it's the busy season. The heat acts as a catalyst and accelerator for every process of decay. Garbage in the streets, which in winter might trot slowly, now putrefies in a matter of hours, releasing a thick, sweetish stench. The sluggish river, its water level low, exposes banks of stinking mud, and the city's cesspits, those thousands of subterranean cauldrons of waste, begin to cook. The warmth supercharges the microbial activity in the pits. The fermentation process goes into overdrive, releasing vast quantities of methane and other foul-smelling gases. The stench, normally contained beneath the ground, begins to seep upwards, escaping through cracks in the stone lids, through the very earth itself. It rises and spreads, merging with the other odors of the city to create a miasma of unprecedented proportions. Suddenly, your services are in desperate demand. A pit that might have been tolerable in May becomes an unbearable olfactory assault in July. Homeowners who had been content to let their privies fill are now frantic to have them emptied. The subtle, background unpleasantness of the city's sanitation problem becomes a full-blown, undeniable crisis. Your nights become a frantic race against the heat. You go from job to job with little rest in between. The work itself is exponentially worse. The heat in the pits is suffocating, a thick, humid foulness that clings to you, making it hard to breathe. The sludge seems more volatile, bubbling gently in the oppressive warmth. The risk of being overcome by the damp, the toxic fumes, is significantly higher. Thomas becomes even more vigilant, watching the lantern flame like a hawk, pulling you out of the pit for breaks in the fresher air more frequently. One week, during a particularly brutal heatwave, the entire city seems to be holding its nose. People walk around with cloths pressed to their faces. The wealthy carry their pomanders everywhere, sniffing them constantly as if they were life-saving devices. The air is thick with the smell, a citywide declaration that its digestive system is failing. Satirists and preachers take note. They call it the Great Stink-A term that would be famously revived centuries later for a similar Victorian-era crisis. But the experience is timeless. During this period, the city's attitude toward you undergoes a strange, temporary transformation. The disgust is still there, etched on people's faces. But now it's mixed with a new emotion: desperation. You are still a pariah, but you are a desperately needed one. When your cart rumbles into a yard, the homeowner doesn't just send out a steward. He might come out himself, his face a mask of misery, and plead with you to be quick. They offer you bonuses, extra shillings for an immediate, thorough job. You are, for a brief, shining moment, in a position of power. The supply of competent, willing gong farmers is limited, and the demand is overwhelming. Thomas, with his years of experience, becomes a master of negotiation. He knows the true value of your labor in this heated market. He calmly turns down low offers, holding out for a price that reflects the increased danger and discomfort of the work. You make more money in these summer months than you do the rest of the year combined. This period also highlights a fascinating historical debate: to what extent did these seasonal crises lead to sanitation reform? Did the great stink of a given year lead to new regulations or building codes? The evidence is ambiguous. While there were certainly discussions on proposals, major, citywide infrastructure projects like a comprehensive sewer system were centuries away. The response was typically reactive, not proactive. The solution wasn't to fix the system, it was to call in the night men and pay them whatever they asked. You are the city's emergency relief valve. The irony of your situation is not lost on you. In the summer, when the rest of the city is enjoying longer days and warmer weather, you are working harder than ever in conditions that are exponentially more dangerous and disgusting. You are profiting from their misery, your fortune rising with the temperature and the level of stench. One sweltering night, you finish a job in a wealthy merchant's yard. The merchant, a large man sweating profusely in his nightshirt, actually offers you a jug of cool water from his own well, a gesture of hospitality that would have been unthinkable in the spring. As you drink, he gestures around his pristine garden, then points a thumb back toward the now sealed pit. "Thank you," he says, his voice heavy with sincerity. "A man cannot live in a house that smells like that." You just nod, your throat too parched for words. But the moment sticks with you. It's the first time you've been thanked, the first time your work has been explicitly acknowledged not as a dirty secret, but as a vital service. As the summer wears on, you become hardened to the extreme conditions. You are a veteran of thermodynamics of filth. You know that when the first cool winds of autumn finally arrive, the demand will slacken. The city will forget its desperation. You will go back to being just a necessary, invisible evil. But for now, in the suffocating heart of the London summer, you are the most important man in the neighborhood. You are the king of the stink. The oppressive heat of summer eventually breaks, but the city's anxieties do not cool with it. A new, more terrifying fear begins to creep through the alleys and markets, a fear whispered on the lips of every Londoner, the sweat. It's the sweating sickness, a mysterious and terrifyingly swift killer that plagued England periodically throughout the Tudor era. Its onset is sudden chills, dizziness, and headaches, followed by a profuse, foul-smelling sweat. From the first symptom to death can be a matter of mere hours. It strikes with no regard for class or wealth. Young, healthy, prosperous men are often its first victims. No one knows what causes it. No one knows how it spreads. The physicians are baffled, their remedies of bleeding, unpurging, useless against its rapid advance. In the absence of knowledge, fear fills the void, and the old, familiar suspect is blamed: miasma. The belief is that a poisonous vapor, a malignant fog, rises from the ground, from the river, from places of filth and decay, and carries the disease on its invisible currents. And what is the most concentrated source of filth and decay in the city? The cesspit. Suddenly your profession is cast in a new, sinister light. You are no longer just dealing with an unpleasant smell. You are seen as a man who traffics in the very essence of plague. The city's relationship with you becomes a complex paradox of fear and dependence. On one hand, the terror of your presence intensifies. People who would once simply avoid you now look at you with genuine primal fear. They see you as a harbinger of death, a man coated in the substance of the plague. Mothers pull their children inside and bolt the door when your cart rumbles past. The bubble of personal space around you in the daytime world widens, becoming an unbereachable quarantine zone. You feel the shift in the air. The looks you get are no longer just disdainful, they are fearful. You are the living embodiment of the city's deepest anxieties about disease and death. But on the other hand, the very same fear that makes you a pariah also makes you essential. If the plague is born from the filth in the pits, then the only logical solution is to remove the filth. The civic authorities, in a desperate attempt to be seen doing something, issue new, stricter sanitation ordinances. Pits must be cleaned. Garbage must be cleared from the streets. The city must be purified. And who is there to do this purification? You. The demand for your services, which had peaked during the summer heat, now continues unabated into the autumn. But the nature of the jobs changes. You are summoned to houses where someone has already fallen ill or even died. You become a kind of sanitation undertaker, called in to cleanse a home after the sickness has already struck. These jobs are eerie and terrifying. You work in yards that are unnaturally silent, the houses behind them dark with grief. You can feel the weight of the fear and loss pressing in on you. The homeowners, their faces pale with shock, treat you with a strange new deference. You are performing a ritual cleansing, a desperate, practical exorcism. They believe that by remove the lingering presence of the disease, historians and epidemiologists still debate the true nature of the sweating sickness. Many modern theories suggest it was a type of hantavirus, spread by rodents, not miasma. If that's the case, then your work, by disturbing the very places where rats might live and nest, could have ironically put you at an even higher risk. You are walking into the heart of the danger, armed only with a shovel and a flawed theory of disease. One night, you are called to a house in a well-to-do neighborhood. A young merchant, a man in the prime of his life, died of the sweat that very afternoon. His family has fled to the countryside, leaving only a grim-faced servant to let you in. As you work in the yard, you can hear the faint sound of a woman weeping inside the house. The sound is a mournful counterpoint to the rhythmic scrape of your shovel. In the pit, you work with a new sense of urgency and dread. Every whiff of foul air, every dizzy spell from the exertion sparks a flicker of panic in your mind. Is this the moment the miasma takes hold? You find yourself holding your breath more often, working faster, desperate to finish the job and escape the contaminated space. Thomas, ever the stoic, tries to keep your spirits up with a grim practicality. The sweat is in the air, not the muck, he grumbles, though you can see the tension in his face. We breathe the same air as everyone else, no safer and no more dangerous down here than it is up there. You're not sure if he believes it, or if he's just saying it to keep you all from abandoning the job and running for the hills. When you finish the job, the servant pays you from a purse held at arm's length. He doesn't thank you. He just shuts the door, leaving you alone in the sorrow-haunted yard. As you guide the cart through the fearful sleeping city, you feel profoundly alone. You are the city's antibody, its sanitation system, tasked with fighting a disease no one understands. They despise you for your association with the filth, yet they depend on you to protect them from it. You are both the scapegoat and the savior, the leper and the physician. This contradiction lies at the very heart of your existence, a burden as heavy and as foul as the contents of your cart. Just when you think you've seen the biggest, foulest pits London has to offer, a new summons arrives that redefines the very scale of your profession. It doesn't come from a lord steward or a frantic merchant. It comes from an agent of the crown. You've been called to clean the great dome of Whitehall Palace. Whitehall is not just a palace, it's the nerve centre of the Tudor government. A sprawling, chaotic complex of over 1,500 rooms. It's the primary residence of the monarch and home to a permanent population of thousands courtiers, servants, guards, diplomats, and petitioners. It is a city within a city, and it has a sanitation system to match its immense scale. The summons itself is intimidating. A stern-faced official in the king's livery informs Thomas that his crew has been selected for this great and necessary enterprise. The pay offered is astronomical, enough to set all three of you up for a year. But the official also makes it clear that failure, sloppiness, or any breach of protocol will be met with the severest of consequences. The crown does not tolerate excuses. You arrive at the palace complex after dark, entering through a series of guarded gates that led you deep into its service areas, a world away from the gilded staterooms and audience chambers. The sheer size of the place is disorienting. It's a labyrinth of kitchens, stables, workshops, and barracks, all humming with a low-level, 24-hour activity that makes the rest of London seem sleepy by comparison. You are led to a vast, walled-off service yard, and there it is. The locals and palace staff call it the Great Gong, and it has earned its name. It's not just a privy, it's a public utility, a long low-stone building, almost like a barracks with multiple entrances. This single facility serves the hundreds of lower-ranking servants, guards, and stable hands who live and work at the palace. The pit beneath it is not a pit, it's a vault. A man-made cavern of epic proportions. The stone slab covering the access point is so large, it requires a winch and a team of palace laborers to help you move it. When it's opened, the sheer volume of the stench that rolls out is unlike anything you have ever experienced. It's the collective waste of a small army concentrated on Dage. Jack, for the first time since you've known him, looks genuinely intimidated. Mother of God, he whispers, it's a lake. The job is a masterpiece of logistics. The palace authorities have provided you with extra carts and a small army of their own laborers to assist with the hauling. Your job, as the specialists, is to go down into the pit and perform the extraction. Descending the ladder into the Great Gong is like entering another world. It's so deep that the lantern light from above seems distant and small. The vault is so wide you can't see the other side. You are no longer a gong farmer in a pit, you are an explorer on the shores of a subterranean sea of filth. The work is organized with military precision. You, Thomas, and Jack work in rotation. Two of you go down for a 1-hour shift while the third rests above, breathing the relatively clean air. The palace physician himself has decreed this method, concerned that any longer exposure to the fumes would be fatal. This is a fascinating historical tidbit, the recognition by the highest medical authority in the land that your job was not just unpleasant, but acutely dangerous, requiring special precautions. For a full week, this is your life. You descend, you shovel, you ascend, you gasp for air, and you watch your partners descend. The scale is inhuman. The carts, once filled, are hauled away to designated barges on the Thames, which will carry the night's soil far downriver. You are part of a massive, industrial-scale operation of waste removal. During your rest periods, you catch glimpses of palace life. You see the frantic activity of the royal kitchens, where entire deer are being roasted on spits. You see the royal guards in their magnificent uniforms, a stark contrast to your own filth-caked leathers. You are in the very heart of power, but you are confined to its bowels, handling the crude, physical reality that all the pomp and ceremony is designed to ignore. There is a long-standing scholarly debate about the sanitation at royal palaces like Whitehall or Hampton Court. Some accounts describe them as glittering marvels of cleanliness, while others paint a picture of squalor and filth, with courtiers relieving themselves in any convenient corner. The truth, as you are witnessing, is likely somewhere in between. There were dedicated facilities, like this great gong, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer number of people, creating a constant, uphill battle against filth. On the final night of the job, as you are scraping the last of the sludge from the vast stone floor of the vault, you find something that makes you freeze. It's not a jewel or a coin. It's a rapier, the elegant, thin-bladed sword favored by courtiers. It's rusted and pitted, but unmistakable. How did it end up here? Was it dropped by accident or was it discarded deliberately? A weapon used in a secret duel or a drunken brawl? Hidden in the one place no one would ever think to look, the pit holds the palace's darkest, most violent secrets. You leave it where it lies. Some treasures are too dangerous to claim. When the job is finally done, and the great vault is clean, the royal official inspects your work with a critical eye. He nods satisfied and hands Thomas a purse so heavy it requires 2 hands to hold. The payment is even more than was promised. You have conquered the great gong of Whitehall. As you leave the palace grounds, exhausted and sore but incredibly wealthy, you feel a strange sense of accomplishment. You have faced the Everest of filth and emerged victorious. The money from the Whitehall job should have made you feel invincible. It's a life-changing sum, enough to buy a small cottage to start a new life. But fortune, you are learning, is a fickle companion. Just as you reach the peak of your professional success, the job decides to remind you of its ultimate price. The assignment is deceptively simple. It's a deep, old pit behind a tannery, a job you've done before. You know its quirks. It's narrow, the air is always particularly foul due to the chemical waste from the leather-making process, and the sludge is thick and heavy. It's a nasty job, but not, you think, an unusually dangerous one. You're reworking the rotation system that served you so well at Whitehall. Thomas is up top, managing the bucket, and you and Jack are in the pit together, taking turns shoveling to speed up the work. The air is thick, as expected, a biting, acrid stench that makes your eyes water, but the lantern flame above is steady, and you've worked in worse. You're deep into the rhythm of the work, your movements almost automatic. Scrape, lift, dump. You're talking with Jack, a low murmur of complaints about the weight of the sludge, the sting of the air. You're making jokes, you're being complacent. And then it happens. It's not a sudden event. It's a slow, insidious creep. You straighten up to rest your aching back, and a wave of dizziness washes over you. The dim light from the lantern above seems to swim and blur. You put a hand against the slimy brick wall to steady yourself. "You all right?" Jack asks, his voice sounding distant echo. "Just a bit dizzy," you manage to say. You assume it's the exertion, the heat of your own body in the enclosed space. You take what you think is a deep breath to clear your head. It's the worst mistake you could make. The air you draw isn't air. It's poison. It feels thick, heavy, and strangely sweet. The dizziness intensifies dramatically. Your knees buckle. The wall is no longer supporting you, you're sliding down it. The world narrows to a tunnel of darkness. You can hear Jack shouting your name, but it sounds like it's coming from the other side of a thick wall. You are suffocating. The toxic fumes, what Tudor physicians called the damp and what modern science identifies as a lethal cocktail of methane, hydrogen sulfide, and ammonia have displaced the oxygen in the bottom of the pit. This phenomenon, known as gas stratification, is a silent killer. The heavier, poisonous gases settle in the deepest, most stagnant areas, creating an invisible deadly pool. The lantern hanging higher up in the pit is still in good air, its flame burning bright and giving no warning. You're on your knees now, your face just inches from the surface of the sludge. Your lungs are screaming for air, but every gasp only brings in more poison. A strange sense of calm, of weary resignation, begins to settle over you. Your body feels impossibly heavy. The urge to just lie down, to close your eyes, is overwhelming. You are dying. Suddenly, rough hands are grabbing you, pulling at your tunic. Jack is yelling, his face a mask of terror in the dim light. "Thomas, rope! Now!" You feel a rope being looped clumsily under your arms. Jack is holding you up, keeping your head from slumping into the filth, his own breath coming in ragged gasps. HES risking his own life by staying down here with you. Then you are being lifted, scraped and dragged up the side of the pit. It's not a gentle rescue. It's a frantic, desperate extraction. You feel the rough break against your back, the bite of the rope into your skin. And then you are breaking the surface, tumbling out of the pit mouth and onto the cold, hard ground of the yard. The first breath of clean air is agony. It feels like swallowing fire. Your lungs burn, and you erupt into a fit of violent, body-racking coughs. You vomit, not food, but a thin, foul-tasting bile. You lie on the ground, gasping, shaking, every muscle twitching. Thomas and Jack are leaning over you, their faces etched with fear and relief. You've never seen Jack look so scared. The sour mask is gone, replaced by a raw, genuine concern. "You foolish boy," Thomas says, his voice rough with emotion. "You foolish, lucky boy. You have just had the most intimate encounter with death possible. You have felt its cold, heavy hand on your shoulder. It wasn't a quick, violent end like a pit collapse. It was a slow, quiet, seductive fading. This experience is something that historical records can't capture: the silent, invisible, ever-present danger of the air itself. While drowning and cavains were documented risks, suffocation by the damp was likely a far more common, yet poorly understood, cause of death for bomb farmers. You lie there for a long time, the cool night air slowly reviving you. The dizziness subsides, but a profound weakness remains. You have been to the edge, looked over and been pulled back by your companion. That night, there is no more work. Thomas and Jack clean the rest of the pit themselves, refusing to let you go back down. You just sit wrapped in a blanket watching them. The camaraderie you felt before has deepened into something else. You are men who have saved each other's lives. You are men who have saved each other's lives. The money, the social stigma, it all fades into the background. In that moment, the only thing that matters is the shared bond of survival. You owe your life to them, a debt that can never truly be repaid. Life after your near-death experience is different. The world seems sharper, the air cleaner, the simple act of breathing a conscious pleasure. But the incident has also left a deep-seated fear in you, a constant awareness of your own fragility. The money from Whitehall, which once seemed like a passport to a new life, now feels like a hoard you might not live to spend. This new sense of mortality shadows your every move, especially during work. You become hyper-vigilant, constantly checking the lantern flame, calling out to Jack and Thomas at the slightest feeling of dizziness. The job has lost any semblance of routine. It is now a nightly negotiation with death. It's during this period of heightened awareness that you make the most significant find of your career. The job is in a respectable but not extravagant part of the city, the home of a wool merchant. The pit is well constructed, the work straightforward. You are near the bottom, scraping the last, thick layer of sludge, when your shovel hits something small and hard with a dull thud. You're more cautious now. You don't just reach in blindly. You use the shovel to carefully clear the area around the object. You scoop it up and bring it close to your personal lamp. You wipe away the grime, your heart starting to beat a little faster. It's not a spoon or a broken pot. You've found rings before, simple silver or pewter bands. But this one is different. It's heavy, made of gold. And set into it is a large, dark blue stone sapphire. You guess that seems to drink the lamplight. On either side of the stone, a coat of arms is intricately carved into the gold, a snarling lion rampant. This is not the ring of a merchant. This is the signet ring of a high-ranking nobleman. A cold thrill runs through you. This is not a piece of lost jewelry. This is a symbol of power, of identity. To lose a ring like this would be a disaster for its owner. It's the equivalent of losing a passport, a credit card, and a set of keys all in one. You quickly conceal it, your mind racing. You say nothing to Thomas or Jack. This feels different from the usual finders keepers trinkets. This is a secret that feels dangerous. Back in the solitude of your room, you clean the ring properly. It's magnificent. The gold glows warmly, and the stone has a deep, mesmerizing fire. The craftsmanship is exquisite. This is a fortune in your hand, worth more than even the Whitehall payment. And now, you face a dilemma, a true test of your character. What do you do? The first option is the most honest and the most dangerous. You could try to return it. But how marching up to a nobleman's house, a filthy gong farmer claiming to have found his lost string, you'd be laughed at, beaten, or worse, accused of stealing it. They would never believe you simply found it. They would assume you were a thief or a blackmailer. The second option is to sell it. But you can't take this to your usual alley pawnbroker. A piece this significant, this identifiable, would attract immediate, unwanted attention. The coat of arms is a dead giveaway. Any goldsmith would recognize it as the noble family. Trying to sell it on the open market would be suicide. You would need to find a highly discreet, and likely very dishonest, by a Raymaster criminal, perhaps who would give you only a fraction of its true value and could potentially use the knowledge to blackmail you later. The third option is the simplest: do nothing. Keep it. Hide it away. It's a beautiful, useless treasure. A secret source of wealth that you can never spend. It would sit in a loose floorboard, a constant, glittering temptation and a source of perpetual anxiety. This is the kind of moral quandary that rarely appears in the official historical record but must have been a very real part of a gong farmer's life. Historians can document the objects found in pits, but they can only speculate on the choices the finders made. Did they risk returning valuable items to the secret, underground economy for these privy treasures exist? The silence of the records on this topic is telling. These were secrets that people took to their graves. For days, the ring is your obsession. You take it out at night, watching it sparkle in the candlelight. You imagine the man who wore it, the power he wielded with a flash of his hand. You think about the life this ring could buy you. Not just a cottage, but a proper business, a new identity in a new town where no one knows your stinking past. It's the key to your ultimate escape. But you also think about the risk. The image of the gallows, of being branded a thief, is a powerful deterrent. The fear from the pit is still fresh in your mind. You have no desire to court a different kind of death. You are caught between the dream of a new life and the terror of losing the one you so recently fought to keep. The ring, this incredible piece of good fortune, has become a curse. It represents a choice you don't know how to make, a crossroad where every path seems fraught with peril. The treasure you pulled from the depths of the city's filth has now plunged you into a deep, personal pit of your own. The gold ring sits hidden beneath a loose floorboard in your room, a silent, teetering weight on your conscience. Every night you go to work, your body aches, the stench fills your nostrils, and you think of the ring. It's a tangible symbol of escape, a shining promise that you don't have to do this forever. The question of what to do with it becomes intertwined with a much larger question: what is your future? You have amassed a significant amount of money. Between the regular work, the summer bonnet, and the small treasures you've sold, you have a small fortune stashed away. It's more than enough to leave London to buy a small plot of land, perhaps even a tavern or a small workshop in a provincial town. You could reinvent yourself. The thought is intoxicating. You start to daydream during the long, dark hours in the pits. You picture yourself as a tavern owner, clean and well-fed, laughing with customers. You imagine being able to walk into a church without being stopped at the door. You imagine a life where people don't flinch away from your smell because the smell is gone. A life where you can walk in the sun. But then reality intrudes. Can money truly wash away the stain of your profession? You decide to test the waters. One afternoon, dressed in your newest, cleanest clothes which still carry a faint, phantom odor that only you can't smell, you walk into a more prosperous part of the city. You enter the shop of a cloth merchant, a place filled with bolts of fine wool and linen. You plan to buy a good quality coat, something a respectable man would wear. You walk in, your purse heavy with silver. The shopkeeper gives you the familiar, brief flicker of a wrinkled nose, but the sight of your money pouch makes him swallow his disdain. He shows you his wares, his attitude a strange mix of professional courtesy and personal revulsion. You pick out a handsome dark wool coat. As the merchant is wrapping it, a wealthy-looking man and his wife enter the shop. They are chattering happily until they catch a whiff of the air around you. The conversation stops. The man subtly guides his wife to the far side of the shop, putting as much distance as possible between you and them. They whisper to each other, casting disdainful glances in your direction. The shopkeeper sees it. You see it. The moment is thick with unspoken class judgment. You pay for the coat, your face burning with shame, and hurry out of the shop. You stand in the street, holding your expensive new coat, but you don't feel like a respectable man. You feel like a gong farmer in a fancy costume. The social stain, you realize, is not just about the smell. It's about the knowledge of what you are. It's a reputation, and in a city like London, reputation is everything. This experience forces you to confront a hard truth. Your identity as a nightman is not something you can just slough off like a dirty tunic. It's been burned into you. Even if you move to a new town, how would you explain your sudden wealth? People would ask questions. Where did you come from? What was your trade in a society built on guilds, family connections, and man histories? A man who appears from nowhere with a suspiciously large amount of money is a man to be distrusted. There's a great deal of historical debate about social mobility in this period. Was it possible for a common laborer to rise through the ranks and become a man of property and standing? The answer is complex. It was possible, but incredibly difficult. It required luck, powerful patrons, and most importantly, a respectable trade. Gong farmer was not a respectable trade. It was, in many ways, the opposite of one. The money it provided existed in a strange paradox. It gave you the financial means to change your life, but the very act of earning it might have permanently closed the doors to the life you wanted. You talked to Thomas about it one night in the quiet confidence of the cart. You don't mention the ring, but you talk about your savings, about your dream of leaving this life behind. Thomas listens, his weathered face impassive. When you're done, he is silent for a long time. The only sound the creak of the wheels on the cobblestones. I've seen men try, he says finally, his voice low. I knew a fella years back. Saved up a good purse, he did. Moved to York. Bought a small alehouse. What happened to him, you ask, leaning forward full of hope. It went well for a time, Thomas says. But then, someone from London passed through. Ray Carter, who knew him from the old days, recognized him. And he talked. Thomas shakes his head slowly. The story got out. The owner of this place used to be a muckman in London. His customers trickled away. No one wanted to drink ale pulled by hands that had once well. He lost the business within a year. Last I heard, he was back in the pits, up north. The story lands like a stone in your gut. It's the confirmation of your deepest fear. The past is not a different country. It's a shadow that follows you, no matter how far you run. You go back to your room and pull out the nobleman's ring. It glitters in your hand, beautiful and mocking. You understand now that the ring is not the key to your escape. It's the ultimate symbol of the world you can never join. Its value is immense, but its identity is immovable. Just like you. You are the gong farmer with a purse full of gold. A man who has the price of a new life, but can never pay it. Years pass. The seasons turn, the city grows, and the pits, always, fill up again. The work is unchanging, a relentless cycle of filth and coin. The gold ring remains hidden beneath your floorboard, the dormant dream. You are no longer the frightened, hungry boy who stumbled into this trade. You are a veteran, a survivor. Your body has changed. Your shoulders are thick with muscle. Your hands are a landscape of calluses and old scars. You move with a slow, deliberate economy of motion, the hallmark of a man who has performed the same hard labor 1,000 times. The permanent ache in your lower back is as much a part of you as your own name. Thomas is getting older. The formidable strength that once seemed boundless is beginning to wane. He climbs the ladder more slowly, his breath coming in shorter, harsher gasps. He still has the knowledge, the authority, but the physical burden of the work falls more and more heavily on you and Jack. A silent, gradual transfer of power is taking place. You are no longer just an apprentice, you are a partner. One evening, as you are preparing the cart, a young man approaches you. He is painfully thin, his clothes are ragged, and his eyes have the same hollow, desperate look you remember seeing in your own reflection all those years ago. He stands at a distance, shifting his weight from foot to foot, clearly terrified but driven by a need that is stronger than his fear. Are you the nightman, he asks, his voice barely a whisper. Thomas looks him over with his old, assessing gaze. The same gaze he once turned on you. We are, he says. What do you want? I'm looking for work, the boy says, his eyes fixed on the ground. He'll do anything. It's like looking into a mirror that shows you the past. You see your own hunger, your own desperation. You feel a pang of pity so sharp it almost takes your breath away. You know exactly what he is feeling. You know the choice he is facing. Jack, ever the pragmatist, scoffs. We don't need another hand. The crew is full. But Thomas is silent, studying the boy. He turns and looks at you, a question in his eyes. He is no longer making the decisions alone. He is asking for your counsel. It's a significant moment. You look at the boy, then at Thomas, who is leaning heavily against the cart. You know that Thomas can't keep going into the pits for much longer. Soon, he will have to be the man who stays on top, managing the ropes, the cart, the business. That will leave a void below. He looks strong enough, you say quietly. Thomas nods slowly. He turns back to the boy and begins the speech. It's the same speech he gave you. Hard work, dirty work, good pay, work at night. The shunning, the smell. You listen to the familiar words, but this time you are on the other side. You are no longer the terrified recruit. You are the seasoned veteran, the potential mentor. The boy whose name is Will agrees without hesitation. His desperation is that great. That night, you take him to his first pit. It's a small one, just like your own first time. You watch him as he gags at the smell, his face pale in the lantern light. You watch the horror in his eyes as Thomas hands him the bucket and tells him to go down the ladder. A part of you wants to be harsh, to tell him to toughen up the way Jack was with you. But you can't. You remember the terror, the feeling of the sludge closing over your boots for the first time. When he hesitates at the top of the ladder, you step forward. Breathe through your mouth, you say, your voice softer than you expect. The first time is the worst. Just focus on the work, one bucket at a time. Well, be right here. You have become Thomas. You guide him through the night, teaching him the rhythm of the work, the language of the ropes. You show him how to brace himself to lift the heavy shovel, how to scrape the corners of the pit clean. You are passing on the grim craft that was passed on to you. This act of teaching changes your perspective once again. For years, you have been focused on your own survival, your own escape. Now you are responsible for someone else. You are part of a lineage, a chain of knowledge passed from one desperate man to another. Historians often wonder how trades like this, which had no formal guild structure, passed on their skills. Was it a father-to-son business, or was it more of an ad hoc apprenticeship system? Your experience confirms the latter. It was a trade that recruited from the endless supply of the city's desperate, with veterans teaching rookies out of a mixture of necessity and, perhaps, a buried sense of compassion. Watching Will work, covered in filth, his young face a mask of misery and determination, you feel a complex mix of emotions. Pity for what he is about to endure, pride that you survived it and can now teach it, and a profound sense of sadness. You are perpetuating the cycle. You are pulling another soul down into the darkness that you have been trying to escape. At the end of the night, After you have hauled a trembling and exhausted Will from the pit, Thomas pulls you aside. You did well with him, he says. You have the knack for it. He claps you on the shoulder. One day, this will all be yours to run. HES not just talking about the business. HES talking about the responsibility. The burden of finding the work, training the new men, and carrying the weight of this foul, necessary trade. The escape you've been dreaming of seems further away than ever. You are no longer just a worker. You are becoming a master. A master of the filth. The years continue to spool out, measured in carts filled and coins earned. Will, the new boy, becomes a steady hand, his initial terror replaced by the same grim competence that marks you and Jack. Thomas, true to your prediction, has retired from the pits. He now manages the business from above ground, negotiating the contracts, managing the accounts, and directing the work with a sharp eye and a sharper tongue. He is the general you, Jack, and Will are his shock troops. You are now the lead man in the pit, the one who goes down first, who assesses the dangers, who sets the pace. You are in the prime of your life, strong and experienced. But the work, the endless, grinding work, is taking its toll. It's a slow, creeping erosion, a theft of vitality that you only notice in small, incremental ways. It starts with your back. The dull ache that was once a temporary complaint after a hard night's work is now a permanent resident. It's the first thing you feel when you wake up and the last thing you feel before you fall into a restless sleep. You find yourself groaning when you bend over, a sound you used to associate with old men. Then there are your joints. Your knees, constantly strained by climbing and squatting in the heavy, viscous sludge, have begun to swell. They click and pop with every step. Your hands, despite the calluses, are riddled with arthritis from gripping the cold, wet shovel for thousands of hours. In the damp cold of winter, they ache with a deep, fiery pain. Your body is becoming a ledger of your labor. Every strain, every injury, every moment of over-aggression is recorded in your tissues. You are being physically worn down, ground away by the relentless friction of your trade. One night, while hoisting a particularly heavy bucket, you feel a sharp, tearing sensation in your shoulder. The pain is electric, searing. You cry out, dropping the rope. The bucket plummets back into the pit with a sickening splash. You clutch shoulder, a wave of nausea washing over you. Jack and will have to haul you out of the pit. The pain is so intense you can barely move your arm. For 2 weeks, you are useless. You can't work. You are forced to rest, to sit in your room while the others go out at night. It's the first serious injury you've had, and it terrifies you. Your entire livelihood depends on your physical strength. Without it, you are nothing. During this forced convalescence, you have too much time to think. You look at Thomas, who now walks with a permanent limp from the old leg injury that first forced him into this trade. You look at Jack, whose smoker's cough has developed into a deep, rattling wheeze that shakes his whole body. You look at your own reflection and see the lines of chronic pain etched around your eyes. You are all being slowly, systematically broken by the job. The long-term health consequences for men in this profession are something historical records can only hint at. Parish burial records might list a nightman, but the cause of death is often vague fever, or consumption. There's a growing consensus among medical historians that these men likely suffered from a whole host of work-related ailments, chronic respiratory diseases from the fumes, infectious diseases from the raw sewage, and severe muscle problems from the relentless physical labor. You are living proof of this hypothesis. You are a walking, breathing case study in occupational health decline. When your shoulder finally heals enough for you to return to work, you are a changed man. The illusion of your own strength has been shattered. You are more careful, more measured in your movements. You work smarter, not just harder. But you know that you have only bought yourself a little more time. The job is a predator, and it will eventually devour your body. The money you've saved, the fortune hidden under your floor, now looks different. It's no longer just a fund for a future dream. It's a money you will need to live on when your body finally gives out, when you are no longer able to descend into the pits. Your escape plan has transformed into a retirement plan, a grim necessity rather than a hopeful ambition. You look at young Will, his body still strong and resilient, and you see a ghost of your former self. You see the strength he is spending every night, unaware of the true cost. You know that in 10, 15 years he will be standing where you are now, his own body beginning to betray him. The cycle of labor is also a cycle of decay. The pit gives you the money to live, but it takes your health as payment, one shovel fuel at a time. The work is slowly, methodically emptying you out. The city of London is a ravenous beast, constantly growing, constantly consuming, and constantly producing waste. In the years you've been a gong farmer, you've seen entire neighborhoods spring up on what used to be open fields. The population swells, fueled by a steady stream of hopeful migrants, just like you once were. More people means more houses, more taverns, more workshops. Your work, you realize with a sinking feeling, is truly endless. For every pit you empty to more seem to fill up, you are engaged in a heroic but ultimately futile battle against a relentless tide of filth. You are Sisyphus, but your boulder is a mountain of human waste. This realization brings with it a new kind of weariness, one that has little to do with your aching back or sore joints. It's a weariness of the soul. The dream of escape, which once burned so brightly, has faded to a dim, guttering ember. Your life has settled into a predictable, inescapable loop. Wake, work, sleep. The city produces and you dispose. It is the fundamental, unchanging equation of your existence. The nature of the city's waste is also changing. With growing prosperity, there is more consumption. You find more evidence of imported goods in the pits, the stones of foreign fruits, the remnants of expensive spices. But there is also more refuse, more garbage. People are throwing more things away. The pits are no longer just repositories of human waste, they are becoming landfills. You find more broken tools, more discarded clothing, more of the general detritus of a growing consumer society. The work becomes heavier, the sludge thicker and more varied. One night, you are working in a newly developed area on the city's outskirts. The houses are freshly built, but the sanitation planning is as primitive as ever. The pits are shallow and poorly sited, already overflowing. As you work, you can see the lights of other crews, other gong farmers working in the same neighborhood. There are more of you now than ever before. The trade is growing to meet the demand. You see new faces in the bell and bucket, young men with the same desperate eyes you once had, starting their own slow journey of physical decay. The competition for jobs is fiercer. Thomas, with his decades of experience and reputation, still secures the best contracts, but the pressure is always there. This expansion of the city and its waste infrastructure or lack thereof is a key topic for urban historians. They debate whether the cities grew in a planned, organized way or if they were chaotic, sprawling messes. Your nightly work is a strong vote for the latter. You see the lack of foresight firsthand. You see how sanitation was an afterthought, a problem to be dealt with only when it became an unbearable crisis. You are the living proof of a systemic failure. The endless nature of the work has a profound psychological effect. It kills hope. The idea of finishing the job becomes a laughable absurdity. The job will never be finished. The city will never be truly clean. You are merely providing a temporary stay of execution, holding back the deluge for one more day, one more night. You even start to see your own work as part of the problem. You haul the night soil to the designated dump sites by the river, but where does it go from there? Some is barged away to be used as fertilizer, but much of it is simply dumped into the Thames, contributing to the pollution of the very river that provides the city with its drinking water. You are not so much removing the filth as relocating it, shifting it from 1,000 small, private problems into one large public one. You are part of a cycle that feels increasingly pointless. This sense of futility is perhaps the heaviest burden of all. The social shunning you can endure, the physical pain you can manage, but the knowledge that your life's work, your sacrifice of health and dignity, is ultimately a drop in an ever-expanding ocean of filth, is a deeply demoralizing truth. You look at the fortune you have saved, the gold ring and the heavy bags of coin. You once saw it as a means of escape. Now you see it for what it is: compensation. It's the price the city pays you to stand in the breach, to perform a task that is both essential and ultimately hopeless. You are not working towards a better future. You are simply managing an eternal, unpleasant present. The pit is not just a place you work, it's a metaphor for your life. You can climb out at the end of every shift, But you know you will always have to go back down. There's always another pit waiting. It's a cold, clear night. The kind of winter night where the stars seem sharp and close, like chips of ice scattered on black velvet. You are finishing a job in a quiet yard, the last bucket of sludge having just been hauled up. The pit is clean. The work is done, for tonight at least. You, Jack, and Will are packing up the cart, your movements practiced and synchronized, your breath plumbing in the frigid air. Thomas is inside the nearby tavern, finalizing the payment. You are alone with your thoughts. Instead of climbing straight out, you pause at the top of the ladder, your head and shoulders just above ground level. You lean your forearms on the cold stone edge of the pit and look down into the darkness you just spent hours working in. You can't see the bottom, only a black, silent void. It no longer holds any terror for you. It's just a place. A workplace. Then you tilt your head back and look up at the sky. The sheer, breathtaking beauty of the night sky catches you by surprise. Above the sleeping, grimy city, the celestial sphere is ablaze. You can see the faint, milky ribbon of the great river of stars, the sharp pinpricks of the constellations you've learned to recognize over your years of nocturnal labor. There is a profound, silent majesty up there, a universe of clean, cold, light and infinite space. You are positioned perfectly between two worlds. Below you is the pit, the darkness, the filth, the enclosure, the sum of human messiness and decay. Above you is the sky, the light, the purity, the vast, unknowable expanse. And here you are, a man of the earth, stuck right in the middle. A lifetime of memories floods your mind, not as a chaotic rush, but as a slow, quiet procession. You remember the gnawing hunger that first drove you to this trade. You remember the face of old Thomas in the tavern, offering you a meat pie and a desperate kind of salvation. You remember the shock of your first descent, the feeling of the sludge closing over your boots. You remember the fear of the collapsing pit, the camaraderie of the bell and bucket, the sting of the priest turning you away from the church door. You think of the treasures you found, the pewter spoons, the locket with the tiny portraits, and the magnificent heavy gold rings still hidden in your room. They are the secret artifacts of your secret life. You think of your body, the permanent aches and pains that are the price you've paid. You think of your companions, Thomas, now an old man, Jack, with his eternal coffined young Will, who is just starting to accumulate his own collection of scars. You are a brotherhood of the damned, but a brotherhood nonetheless. You have spent your entire adult life in the shadows, reviled and ignored by the world of day. You have waded through the literal and metaphorical filth of society. You have faced death, disease, and daily humiliation. And for what? For a bag of coins that can't buy you a new name. For the grudging, temporary gratitude of a city that will forget you the moment the sun rises. Was it worth it? This is the question that has haunted you for years. It's a question that historians, looking back at your life, could debate endlessly. They could argue about your economic agency, your social status, your contribution to public health. They could weigh the high pay against the high risks, the social ostracism against the professional necessity. They could write papers on the paradox of the gong farmer. But for you, here in this moment, the answer is surprisingly simple. You are alive. You survived. In a world where starvation, disease, and random violence claimed lives every day, you found a way to endure. This job, this foul, disgusting, soul-crushing job, fed you when you were starving. It clothed you when you were cold. It gave you a place in the world, even if that place was at the very bottom. It gave you companions who saved your life, and for whom you would do the same. You looked down into the dark pit one last time, and then up at the brilliant, silent stars. You didn't get the life you dreamed of as a boy. You didn't become a celebrated craftsman or a respected farmer. You became something else entirely. Something stranger, harder, and dirtier. But it was a life. You pull yourself out of the hole, your boots making a solid sound on the frozen ground. You are not a hero. You are not a victim. You are a gong farmer. And in the profound silence of the London night, under the cold, watchful eyes of the stars, you finally make peace with it. The stars begin to fade now, their sharp edges softening as the first, faintest hint of dawn touches the eastern sky. The deep, velvet blackness of the night is thinning, melting into a gentle, quiet grey. The world around you seems to be holding its breath, caught in the magical, liminal space between dream and waking. The work is over. The journey back through the sleeping streets is a slow, rhythmic procession. The creak of the wheels and the soft clop of the horse's hooves the only sounds in the universe. You are tired, a deep, bone-weary exhaustion that goes beyond the muscles and into the spirit. It's a comfortable weight, the feeling of a hard night's labor done. You lean your head against the side of the cart, the rough wood a familiar pillow, and you close your eyes. The city drifts by, a landscape of shadows and silhouettes. You are not really here anymore, suspended in the gentle current of your own fatigue. The noises of the waking city, a distant rooster, the first toll of the morning bell are not jarring intrusions. They are soft, muffled sounds, like noises heard from underwater or from deep within a dream. Your thoughts are no longer sharp and clear, they are dissolving, becoming soft-edged and indistinct, like clouds drifting across the moon. The aches in your body are fading, replaced by a spreading, peaceful numbness. You are sinking, not into a pit of filth, but into a deep, soft bed of quiet and rest. The journey is ending. The darkness is giving way, not to the harsh light of day, but to the gentle, welcoming darkness of sleep. You are safe now. You are warm. The end of the article. Good night.